distracted. I'm on the floor. I don't even know what to say. But I was saying to Lebo, one of the two producers of this show, this morning, that actually, when I was listening to the spokesperson of the commission, the spokesperson of the Madlanga Commission, one of the things that the spokesperson says is that they've been approached by many people, right, who want to come and testify at the commission, but they are, they can only take so many people in because of the terms of reference of the commission. Because you must remember the terms of reference of the commission relate solely and squarely on what was said by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi on that fated July 6th day. So beyond that scope, they can't get out. Makes you wonder, right? Makes you wonder what else there is, because we're looking at just one part. The things that were said by Mkhwanazi in that press conference about the issues of interference of the judiciary and, political role players and the police in specific things makes you wonder what else. But I was thinking, and Lebo also reminded me, this is not the first time we're here. If you stop and think about it, if you're old enough like me, do you remember Jackie Silebi, former Minister of Police? Do you remember the famous words? Glenn Agliotti is my friend. Finish and clar. Do you remember? Do you remember that finish and clar? We laugh about it now. We laugh about a lot of things because I think that's a coping mechanism for us as South Africans. Because, and I say it a lot when I'm on this show, like if I don't laugh, I'm gonna cry. Man, hi, Gooby, good bad. Ali Nzanin, hi,
How are you?
good.
Yes, Alan Timani from Parada Village in Ghanaian. Look, I'm I'm so flabbergasted about this whole thing uh, with my because it's been, no, the truth is coming out, but no one is getting arrested. It's the same thing um, as the Zondo Commission, if you remember. Uh, at the like of the Zondo, we got the like of
Zizi Kodwa.
Madud.
What's a million rand between friends? What's a million rand between friends? Do you remember Zizi Kodwa
I
saying
do.
that? Uh,
Yes, I do. I do. So hence I'm saying, it's KG, that
no.
according to me, this is just a waste of tax money because people are implicated, but no one is getting arrested.
But you know
So
what? I used to think that. I used to think that, and I expressed that on this show, like you. I used to think it is a waste of taxpayers' money. But in a way, my mind has shifted. And my mind has shifted. Even if nothing gets done, history needs to know. The joy of this is that it gets recorded, right? History needs to know what happened. History needs to know what happened.
but you are quite right, KG. We need to know what has transpired, what has happened. But we have already know what has happened via Zondo Commission. Now here comes Madlanga Commission. So let's take it from there, from Zondo Commission. How many were arrested out of the truth that has been said on the Commission? How many people were arrested? You know, ordinary person like me and you, KG, if we can commit a crime, I'm telling you, we will be jailed in no time just because we don't have
Me,
money.
because they don't even like me, they'll do it quickly.
Uh, but what I'm saying is just because we don't have money, we can be arrested in no time, anytime, if we can commit crime. But those who are in power, whenever they commit crime, when they are on the wrong side of the law, say something like, oh, he paid 50,000 days, and then he's not behind the bar.
I think
So,
I stand by my argument that I've put on the table that history needs to know. But we must all collectively remember, right, that n- not only will history judge badly the people that have done these things, right, they will judge us too. Because in many ways, and I've said this over and over again, we're complicit. We must own our part. We
you know,
must own our part.
uh, Mrs. KG, without wasting any time, let me tell you this. Ever since the Madlanga Commission has started, I've been praying day and night to say, God, can you help us? Can you help the entire South African to witness some of these people who are implicated uh, when they get arrested at the end of Madlanga Commission? That's what I'm always praying. I'm praying to see these people get behind the bars, like any.
Yeah.
So I thank you very much, KG. Have a lovely day.
Thanks. Thanks, Ali. You know, when the issue of the so-called body came about yesterday, I kept thinking about the family, right? Of whoever of the person we now know, right? That what they went through. Because think of yourself when you can't find your loved one. To think that they went and ooh, shame. Mm. We are just a disgusting lot. David in Pietermaritzburg, you've been trying to get through, I think, since yesterday. You want to talk about the ZET permit. Hi, David.
Yes, recently the Minister of Home
Morning.
Affairs. Yes,
Morning.
morning, morning. Yes, morning. Yes, recently the Minister of Home Affairs ended that he was in. And the question I have, the unemployment in Zimbabwe is less than Africa. Recently, President Mnangagwa was bragging that they managed to have poverty. It's now been reduced. And I mean, I think doesn't it's genocide. We as a South African, highest unemployment, one
Sorry.
of the highest.
So
We learn
wait. Pause. You just said something. You said another thing. Zimbabwe doesn't have genocide. Who else has it?
there is genocide in Sudan. There
Oh,
is
okay, okay,
there is
okay,
genocide in
okay,
Palestine.
okay, okay,
So,
okay.
so my point is that why is it being the the getting this now in one of the highest during one of Kathy's show, the people with disabilities, they phoned and they complained, saying that they are being disregarded. When they apply, they are not being considered. But if you listen to parliamentary committees like the one that deals with learning, discover that there are a lot of them who are employed in these institutions of higher learning and being said that uh, their employment is unlawful since it's not one of the
Mm,
data positions they hold. So
yeah.
those positions, you can tell that our South Africans who are disabled as well should be prioritized for those positions. So I would love them to invite Minister of Home Affairs to try to keep on extending that.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Sure, David. Thanks.
yes.
Mandla's Kawin, you want to talk Madlanga as well. Hi, Mandla. Morning.
Morning, KG.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks, man. KG, I'm going to be brief, KG. I want to draw comparison between Madlanga Commission, Zondo Commission. I think in Madlanga Commission, we've got the people who are coming up there testify. Most of them, they come with evidence to produce the evidence to say the so and so or Miss so and so did.
But
And here
they
is the
work in the
evidence.
sector. Don't you think that that's an important factor to remember? It's part of their work to
Yes,
always have evidence.
yes, yes. You're correct. Maybe because of their work, their position, their work gives them enables them to have that particular evidence in their position. But in the Zondo Commission, we were just listening a lot of rumors there, and just statement with this less evidence. So
I don't know if you can entirely say there's no base to it when we see institutions crumbling and we know that the money's gone. You know how in South Africa they say follow the money, follow the trail of the money?
yes,
We know that the money is gone.
the money is gone, KG, but
Ayizihambelanga leyo mali, ayiphakamanga leyo mali yathi awuthi ngihambe ngiqedile manje into engifuna ukuyenza. Bye bye. It didn't do that.
no, 100% you're correct. But you know what Camila Pato said about the commission? She said, you can't prosecuting people based on what I heard there. These people who were talking there, they did not give me any evidence. But I can tell you now, KG, with my last commission, you can charge a person now and the person can,
In
because the evidence
fact,
is there.
I'm glad you just said that because Shamila Batoy is going to the ad hoc committee,
Yes,
right?
I'm going to be listening to
Uh,
her.
we all will. Ngifuna ukuzwa ukuthi uzoyisho na yona leyo nto uyishoyo ukuthi immediately because there is evidence that's available, people will be arrested. So you and me will be watching with the same eye, I guess.
It will be for him. I mean, it will be for her. Yeah, yes, you will be listening, KG. It will be for her if she decides not to prosecute. But the team by Mufanazi and all the and Masimula, they will arrest people. If she does not decide to prosecute people, that will be the ball will be on her court. Hence, I'm saying there is a value for money in Madlanga Commission and ad hoc commission. Actually, another topic I wanted to touch on
Ah,
this too.
yeah.
No, no, just one. Is to say, is to say, but I think
You
between
gotta
the
love
two,
it.
I think the ad hoc commission has got more teeth than Madlanga Commission. Madlanga Commission, the president can just classify all that thing there and shelve it there. He cannot shelve the ad hoc commission, committee findings because the ad hoc committee is the parliament. It's above even himself. It's above even Cyril Ramaphosa himself.
We'll
But in
see.
Madlanga Commission, he's got every right.
We'll see, Mandla. You and me will see. We're watching with the same eyes. Sobona. Se South
So,
Africa la. Sobona.
I like you when you touch on the JPC Atiyoti. I want to
Yay.
remind you of
Ah, nah. Ay,
another
bye bye,
poor
Mandla. Mandla. Bye bye. You're hogging the spotlight. Bye bye. Ronald in Midrand. Hi, Ronald.
Morning, KG and the listeners.
Yes, you are my friend. Finish and klar.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm telling you, no, the difference now with the going to watch the movie live. And the of football, no one is going to participate. And those who have the legal committee going to be voted against the government are going to be removed from positions that are going to have ended in the school.
That's
Because
why my
it,
posture now, and I suppose
yeah.
I'm being sort of cautious, knowing what I know historically, right, with all of these
Mhm.
commissions. That's why my posture is I'm just grateful that all these things get recorded for history to know. That
Exactly.
that
Because
is my posture now because history needs to know that this happened, and it happened, and I think as South Africans we must not absolve ourselves from a degree of responsibility from all that is happening because, like they say, there's a saying I think it's in Chinese. I don't speak Mandarin, but I think when you loosely translate it, it means you get the government you deserve.
exactly. What is more important is not what the government will do. The government won't do anything. Not why are we still talking about Maumela, who killed with our people? The customers went to collect the car, the school not present, the youth admins are not present
Yeah,
because they need to have enough time to
yeah,
transfer all the money to the offshore account
yeah.
and all that. Depends on 2 months, 2 months to finish. all one or the other. What will happen? Because he's doing what you told him to do. When I asked him to kill, what I tell it will come in what is going to do? What is going to do at the end? Ask the voters to rise and elect the government with the vote. This one, no,
Yeah.
in a normal situation, school should be jail, here should be in jail, and they should not even be. All the people have been making. Why are you making
Yeah.
together with it?
The commission is starting. Thank you, Ronald. Let's go to Dineo
Okay.
Mutaum quickly for the news headlines, and then straight after that, the commission.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Thanks, KG. A very good morning. Let's take a look at the headlines at 9:30. The National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Shamila Batoy, will today appear before Parliament's ad hoc committee looking into concerns of national security.
It's under the heading Criminal Record Vetting Process. Have you located the place?
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay. If you could pull the microphones closer to you. Thank you. You deal with this from your paragraph 47 up to 52. So let's have a conversation about those paragraphs before we deal with your subtopic regarding systemic concerns with the vetting process. Okay? Go ahead. Thank you.
Commissioners, during 2020 and 2021, we as Municipal Police also attend the Portfolio Committee of Policing in Parliament, and there was remarks and questions made by the Portfolio Committee that it looks like municipal police members are not vetted and there are not criminal checks done against them. And in terms of the municipal police and interactions with the South African Police Services, we have an established intergovernmental framework forum, which was established with the Constitution, where the National Police Commissioner and the municipal police chiefs meet on a quarterly basis, and we then set standards and uniform standards between us, and also align in terms of the single policing concept, that we align our training methods and procedures and everything. So in terms of that, at our quarterly meeting in the November 2021, there was a discussion at this, what we call the Chiefs Forum, that how do we enable it that the municipal police members also get vetted and criminal records checked, because we as a municipal police services, we don't have access to the South African Police Service computer systems and criminal record centrums. We are actually like civilians on the side for their systems purposes. And it was then agreed that we will initiate a process where we will at least take all the members' fingerprints, submitted in a manual process to the South African Police Service, and that they will then verify the criminal records at a once-off basis to us. And then we will...
Sorry, Commissioner. You said this was at what Chiefs Forum? Chiefs what?
We call it the Chiefs Forum. The South African Police Service have established a Metro Police nodal point within the South African Police, and the 6 current municipal police services have then established a nodal point as well, where we interact and deal with one another. And then there's a constitution for this forum, and this forum consists then of 2 separate subcommittees. The one subcommittee deals with training-related matters, training academies and training curriculum, and the second committee is the Research, Technology and Uniform Standards Subcommittee, of which I am the chairperson. And then the chiefs themselves have a forum as municipal police. And then on the Friday, we have a combined South African Police Service and Municipal Police Service meeting, where we then try to thrash out any challenges or issues that we have between the forces, and so that we can standardize everything between us. This has been in place since Commissioner Selebe, or General Commissioner Celebi's time when he was the National Police Commissioner. It's continued on since to date.
Thank you, thank you. You may go back to where you were. Thanks.
Thank you. So when we returned from the November 2021 meeting at Ekurhuleni, Chief Mapie initiated an immediate inter-department process where he issued what we call a directive, a standard operating procedure, which is in terms of our policies, he issues a directive to all the staff and the deputy chiefs, which we must then immediately comply with. This directive was that everyone's fingerprints must be taken. It must be submitted to his staff officer, Colonel Ivan du Plessis, who will then make arrangements, and Commissioner Mapie is then also, because the Provincial Police Commissioner was known about this, it was arranged with the Provincial Police Commissioner that the whole of Ekurhuleni's fingerprints will be taken, Ekurhuleni Metro Police, and then this will be analyzed by South African Police Service and feedback will be provided to us.
Was this to be done for the first time, or is it something that had been done within the EMPD before?
In EMPD, it was done, but very haphazardly and randomly. It wasn't done on a regular basis at all. It was initially when we became members, when we were established, which is like 22 years ago. It was done initially, but thereafter it was only done when you recruit people. The recruits' fingerprints will be taken. But officers in the force would stay without having their fingerprints being taken. It's only when you do promotions. During a promotion process, the shortlisted candidates, their fingerprints will then be taken, and so that you can look at the promotions. But it wasn't a regular exercise done.
I am aware that in your statement you mentioned that Brigadier Mkhwanazi refused. Mkhwanazi, yes, refused to be subjected to this. But before that, had he ever been subjected to this process?
Not at all. It would have been only during his original appointment as a recruit. That was the only time that it would have been done.
Thank you. Thank you. Please continue.
So
Commissioner, before you move on, may I invite you to your Annexure RS 18, and we have this conversation in the context of, or with reference to the actual directive issued by the Chief of Police, Chief Mapie, in 2021. And in particular, I would like you to concentrate what my reading of the directive. The opening paragraphs and the first 3 paragraphs in large part deal with the legislative framework, what the law provides, insofar as vetting is concerned. I would like you to draw your attention to the second last paragraph, the penultimate paragraph on that page, at page 47, the last paragraph, and then you can move over then to the process to be followed as prescribed by that directive. So if you could deal with what the directive required of all members, and then we will take it from there as regards the issue of compliance or non-compliance. Thank you.
Must I start at the second last paragraph of the directive?
Yes, where it references the National Strategic Intelligence Act.
Correct. So the directive explains the legislative framework where there's to prevent any labor issues if officers want to disagree with it. So it starts off in the second last paragraph to say the National Strategic Intelligence Act number 39 of 1994 in section 2 capital A, 1 small a and small b is very specific that employees of an organ of state may be vetted. The city of Ekurhuleni is considered an organ of state as envisaged in this act, and therefore all employees of EMPD are included to be vetted. The South African Police Services Crime Intelligence Section has been instructed or appointed to perform the vetting of all municipal police services by the National Police Commissioner, and the standard forms as printed and issued by the government printer shall be used, e.g. SAP 91 inquiry. And then on page 48, the process to be followed. The annual vetting process for EMPD shall start on 1 January 2022 and be concluded by 28 February 2022. Disciplinary action will be instituted against any non-compliance. During this process, each divisional head shall be responsible to ensure that all employees in their respective divisions' fingerprints be taken on the prescribed form, SAP 91, and submitted to the Office of the Chief, Colonel Ivan Duplessis, the Staff Officer in the Chief's Office. The forms will then be submitted to the Gauteng Provincial Police Commissioner's Office for analysis and feedback to the Chief's Office. And then it's signed by Commissioner Mapie as the Chief of Police.
Thank you. Reading on the process to be followed, item 1 stipulates that the annual vetting process, or states that the annual vetting process shall start on the 1st of January 2022. My question is, was this process intended to be repeated on an annual basis? Was that the intention? Was that your understanding of?
Correct, Commissioner. Because in Ekurhuleni it wasn't done. It was only done upon promotions, and it was only done when you are initially recruited. All the other Metro Police departments do it on an annual basis. And we were the only ones who actually, when it came to light and during these discussions at the Portfolio Police Committee, we noticed that we don't do everyone every year. We only do the promotion part of it, and we only do upon recruitment. And therefore, the decision was made that this annual vetting shall be instituted and it will start as an annual for everyone.
And I see that at item 2, it states that during this process, each divisional head shall be responsible to ensure that all employees in their respective divisions' fingerprints be taken. This is 2021, December 2021. Please remind us how many divisional heads were there within EMPD and specifically who they were.
The divisions were Division Operations and Specialized Services, which have Commissioner Goodman Mazolo as the head of that division. It was Division Auxiliary and Support Services, of which I was the head as Deputy Commissioner Spies. It was the Division Security, of which Commissioner Ndumiso Kwabe was heading the Security and Loss Control. There was a Division Licensing, which was then headed by Mr. Hamilton Letwaba. Sorry, I have to, in my mind, go back, make sure that I've mentioned. And there was a Division Compliance. However, Division Compliance was vacant and there was no appointment in that position at that stage. The functions of that division was divided between the other deputy chiefs at that stage.
Okay, you may proceed with your testimony then. What did you do or what happened after this directive was issued by Chief Mapie?
So from my section, I had a subsection within me called the Warrant of Arrest section. That Warrant of Arrest section was headed by a Colonel Foster, and I tasked him and his whole team to immediately start the process on 1 January, taking my division's fingerprints. That was concluded in January already, the whole division of Auxiliary and Support Services. I then made him available to the other divisions to say, please assist the other divisions because they take too long to do this process. And by the end of February, which the chief's deadline was, a large portion of it was concluded except the southern region and the specialized services. Specialized services refused to have their fingerprints taken at all. This section is the section that resorts under then Brigadier Mkwanasi. They refused to have their fingerprints taken. The southern region, the reason they haven't concluded yet is they are the largest region. They have the most officers and they were running late because of the volumes and the officers working different shifts and taking their fingerprints. So there was a verbal extension that we can carry on during the year with it. And at the end of February and March, Colonel Duplessis then took all the fingerprints that was already submitted, handed it over to the Provincial Police Commissioner's office, and they started to analyze it. In the South African police side, it took a long time. It was like 4 to 5 months to take it, but it was distributed to different criminal record centres like Soweto, Johannesburg, Tshwane, and East Rand because of the huge volume that came in. And then it started to trickle back, and eventually, once it started coming back, one of my sections, Colonel van Rooyen, which is the human resource liaison person, his section was then tasked to scan and capture the returns, which is the SAP 69 forms, which is the criminal records. It will state on the front page either illicit activity recorded or no illicit activity recorded. If it says no illicit activity recorded, then there's no record of SAPS looking for you or having any record of you. And if there's illicit activity recorded, there will be a SAP 69, which is the actual record, will then be attached to the back of that. So Colonel van Rooyen and his section started to capture all of these returns as it is. Eventually, there was more than 3,700 in total. I don't have the exact figure, but I've got a spreadsheet with the actual names on it that was submitted to HR. And in this process, when we got to a stage where it's a year later now, we're supposed to start the next session of vetting again, but we haven't even concluded the first session again. And I was then tasked by Chief Mapie to give feedback on this specific status, where in the project are we, because we are capturing, my section is capturing it. I then prepared a feedback where I presented and I started. We were at a meeting which we call PEXCO Inside. It's Police Executive Committee. It's the Chief of Police with his deputy chiefs and the head of internal affairs that is together. And at this meeting where we were present, the chief was chairing and I was presenting the feedback of this, or where we are. The moment I started to give feedback, Brigadier Makonasi was sitting right opposite me. And he started to scream with even spit and froth that comes out of his mouth at me, where he was screaming, extremely disrespectful towards me, screaming that he doesn't have a criminal record, and I'm saying he's got a criminal record. And I said to him, but I'm not saying you've got a criminal record. I'm giving feedback on the status of the fingerprints. What I do say is that your section didn't provide the fingerprints and they refused to provide the fingerprints. I'm not saying you have a criminal record. And he just kept on screaming at me. In front of all of us in the meeting, he physically took his phone out and he started phoning. And he speaks, you can clearly hear, he speaks to the city manager, Imogen Mashazi. And he puts the phone down and he says, the city manager says this process will stop immediately. And he turned around and he walked out in an extremely disrespectful manner. Closed the door. We were all still shocked that a senior officer can actually even act in this manner. And the Chief of Police, Commissioner Mapie, then calmed us all down and says, stop, don't discuss further anything here. He will go and speak to the city manager afterwards and he will calm everything down. We must just carry on doing our work. And from that meeting then, the very next day, I received an email from Kasheka, who is the HOD of HR, wherein she stated that the process and we must submit everything to them. At that stage, I have already prepared what we call a council item. It is a draft item that we can report to council. Everything is already in the item, the wording, the background, the discussion, up to resolutions even, but it's still in the draft form. It states at the top draft as well. Attach this list of officers with a graph of what the crimes are, what the officers are accused of, just redacting their names, and the spreadsheet itself has been encrypted with a password that no one can really open it if they do see it. And we submitted that as a proposal to say, we from a Metro Police side thinks that HR must deal with these officers in the following manner. And the proposal that we in the draft made is that the officers must be offered the chance to provide proof that they have been expunged, because there is in law an expungement process, and it's possible that they've been expunged and the certificates has not been submitted, that we make sure that it's a proper process, so that every officer be given an opportunity. So we propose, because we know how long the process takes in the Justice Department, is to give them a period of 6 months, provide proof of expungement, and if you do not have proof of expungement, that we then start initial proceedings at the end to either dismiss or to take disciplinary actions against the officers who got criminal records. So that day a meeting was then set up with HR. However, it was postponed at the last minute to the next day, and we then met at Kasheka's boardroom in Germiston.
Well, before you continue, Commissioner, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to take you back to Brigadier Mkwanazi. And you said his entire section had refused, basically, to be subjected to this fingerprint process. Do you know how many police officers were in this section?
Commissioner, it's close to 200.
Okay. Did you get any information as to how it came about that all of them did not subject themselves to the process?
When Colonel Foster and the group of officers that I've assigned, when they came back to me every day to give feedback to say they've done so many fingerprints per day or and they all came back to me and says they visited specialized services officers and the officers were not there, and when they spoke to the supervisors said to them they're not going to give their fingerprints because it's an illegal process. So I received everyday feedback just to say that the specialized services doesn't want to give their fingerprints in that. And because there was also from some of the union members that came to see me that wanted to have clarity because they say their members have approached them to say we're taking their fingerprints, and nowhere in the Act does it say we can take their fingerprints. And then we had sessions with organized labor as well to say, but here it is. You know, it's in numerous different legislation that police officers' fingerprints can be taken. It even states in the Regulation 11 of the Municipal Police Services, it states if you refuse to have your fingerprints taken, you commit an offense. So we explained to the union members there was a proper process to get them as well a faith that this is a legal process. There's nothing illegal or untowards about it.
And the supervisors that you say you got, or Foster, was it? Was it Foster that was doing the...
Colonel Foster is the one
Foster,
that...
yes,
he was in charge of the unit and went to assist to
yes.
take the fingerprints.
The supervisors that you say he got feedback from, would those have been supervisors who fell under the supervision of Brigadier Mkhwanazi?
Correct. The specialized services concert, there's one of the supervisors there was Dion Singh. He was from the K9 Equestrian Unit and the Drug Enforcement Unit. He's one of them. And then the others, I don't know all of them, but there's specific people that I know that was extremely arrogant, and they just blatantly refused to even make themselves available to have their fingerprints taken.
Thank you.
If I may just pick up on that line of questioning, Commissioner Spies. We read Chief Mapie's directive of the 21st of September. That's your Annex RS 18, where he sets out the process to be followed.
Is it not December?
December, did I say different month? 21st December 2021.
Correct.
I apologize for the confusion. And that is your Annex RS 18. You state, as you have highlighted to the chair, that the Specialized Services Division under Brigadier Mkhwanazi refused to submit their fingerprints. You now have also made reference to Regulation 11, which stipulates that it shall be an offense to refuse to have your fingerprints taken. In his directive at item 1, page 48, Chief Mapie indicated that disciplinary action will be instituted against any non-compliance. Are you aware of steps, if any, taken against Brigadier Mkhwanazi and or members of his division for the refusal to have their fingerprints taken?
No further steps were taken against them because in my testimony, as I will get to it, this process has been killed and stopped by Kasheka from HR.
So as of December 22, well, I'll take it's February because this process was supposed to conclude in February 22. There was this absolute refusal to have the fingerprints taken, and you'd retired in February 2025.
Correct.
For completeness, at the time you retired, had their fingerprints been taken?
Not that I know of.
I'm going to, because of this line of questioning, I'm going to jump slightly ahead, and we don't have to project. You have Annexure RS 21 appearing from page 61. This, you say, are the results of, or the status of all members whose fingerprints, who were vetted. And
Correct.
You have a legend explaining their respective status. My question for the moment is, do we read Annexure RS 21 to be exclusive of all members falling under the Specialized Services Division? Is that a correct interpretation?
RS 21 is the full database of
Yes.
everyone. That is the 3,762 members.
Yes.
But of that, and it's color-coded then, the no illicit activities is marked in green.
No, you will get to that part. I just want to know those 3,700 you list.
Yes.
At RS 21, you provide the status of each. My question is it a correct reading that this list does not include any member of Brigadier Mkhwanazi's Specialized Services Division?
Now, their names will be there under outstanding. marked in yellow, because the ones marked in yellow, we haven't yet taken their fingerprints. Those are the ones who hasn't their fingerprints taken. There is obviously some that has been off sick or not at work and their fingerprints couldn't be taken. So out of the 211 that is outstanding at that stage, those include, and you will see at the divisions and sections that it's specialized services. There is here and there another individual which is from another section, but it is because of reason. The southern region is, for instance, the one that they were still busy. Their fingerprints been taken and late submitted. We haven't got the results back.
Okay, thanks for that.
I'm sure, Ms. Sildo, we are not expected to actually see what's on here, not with the size of the lettering.
It shall be reproduced in what, A3 and refiled,
unless
yes.
you arrange magnifying glasses for us.
Indeed, Chair. We have thought of how to engage with this for the listeners. It's difficult to work through it. We cannot project it on the screen because it contains personal information of members.
I doubt that we really have to
then we don't have to.
I think it's enough to just get an idea of the numbers by looking at the color coding. That's enough for our purposes.
Then
so don't worry about
having to share
or whatever
it, yes.
else. Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Ms. Silo, if I may just follow up on the earlier question, just in case it wasn't answered. You were asked, Commissioner, whether the 200, the people that belong under or that fall under specialized services, any of them had been fingerprinted by the time you left, and your answer was you're not aware if that was done. And I want to ask slightly different question. The directive, you say, contemplated that there would be annual vetting process starting from the date from 2022. As at the time that, and you've told us that that process was stopped, the 2022 process was stopped, so it didn't conclude. By the time you left, had any vetting at all, the annual vetting that was contemplated, had it happened or was it happening at all?
No further. That 376 that we have vetted from inside the department, that was the only vetting that was done, and then the process to carry on from that was physically stopped, and thereafter no vetting was again done on criminal records. There is a later process where just after Commissioner, when Mkonasi was appointed as a deputy chief, then, and this vetting process was started, there was the instruction from the chief of police to the 3 deputy chiefs that we must be fully vetted. In that process, he again refused to be vetted at all, and Commissioner Kwabe, forms were supplied to him, and he started the process to be vetted, and I answered the chief back to say, I'm already vetted to a top secret clearance level, here's my top secret clearance security number. My own security vetting has then, at a stage, it's only valid for 5 years, it expired and it was redone, and I've received my new one again. So I'm fully vetted to top secret, which now expires in 2030 somewhere. I don't know the exact date, but it's somewhere in 2030, I think August 2030.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Ms. Silo.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi. Staying then with RS21, which we will not project. It's color-coded, green, yellow, red, and without giving any detail, for future reference, can you summarize what the color coding means? What is green, what is highlighted red, and yellow, the legend?
This is an Excel spreadsheet containing all the employees of Ekurhuleni Metro Police in 2022 that was used to capture the results of the criminal record vetting. Everything covered in green is where no illicit activity was recorded, and that is a total of 3,174 people. The ones colored in a light beige color is the southern region who has submitted late because of their large volumes, and they've already submitted 102 2 SAPs, but we haven't received the results of that 102 yet back. And then there's a group of illicit activity in a dark red, which is 275 officers that have illicit activity recorded. And then the 211 is still outstanding, which gives us a total of 3,762 at that stage. Under the dark red...
Sorry, Commissioner. In the red, that is where illicit activity has been identified, there's the total number, but then to the far right, there's another number. What does that signify?
So that's lighter red, and it states awaiting trial. So when the illicit activity sometimes come back, it means that an officer has, for instance, been arrested and he's already been charged and he already pleaded and his criminal case is running. So we don't yet have a result of that person. So we just indicate it as awaiting trial because of the process is still ongoing.
Oh, thank you very much. Because it's just sticking out and hanging, as it were. I did not see the heading above. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Do you have in the list officers who have been convicted?
And what is that number? I can't quite read it.
It's 100.
100. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you.
In the list, do you have officers who have been convicted?
That's out of the 275.
So when you say illicit activity identified, the 275 have been convicted?
Yes, Commissioner.
And then the 100 are awaiting trial?
Yes, Commissioner. I do have made a graph which I presented at the same meeting on page 60, which is RS20.
Before we get to RS20, we'll get to RS20. Can we stay with 21 for the moment? You were still going through the color coding methodology you applied. So you had said the beige, those highlighted in a beigeish color, those were involve the southern region mainly, which has a large number of members.
Correct,
and had
Commissioner.
not completed the process.
Correct, Commissioners. Their fingerprints were already taken and submitted, but we still haven't received feedback from the South African Police Service on their results.
Then you have the yellows. What does yellow?
The yellow means that the fingerprints has not been taken and the fingerprints has also not been submitted. So they are still outstanding and therefore nothing has happened with them yet.
And it is in this category that members of the Specialized Services Division would fall.
Correct, Commissioner.
Now, if you could go back to page 50, that is annexure RS19. There appears to be a memorandum from Chief Mapieye dated the 6th of February 2024, addressed to El Kasheka, HOD Human Resource Department. You see that? And it's signed at the bottom by him. Is it this document? It says, kindly find attached report from the EMPD to Human Resources Department regarding the status quo of EMPD employees with criminal and or illicit activities recorded against them as requested by the Human Resources Department in the meeting held on the 27th of February 2024 at HR Corporate Head Office in Germiston. Do you see that? At paragraph 52 of your statement, you reference a meeting you had with Ms. Kasheka. That date of the 27th of February 2024, that Chief Mapieye refers to at page 50, is it the same meeting or is it a different meeting? Because your meeting of at paragraph 52 does not appear to have a date.
The meeting that we held with HR, so in the beginning of February, there was a meeting which is the SPEXCO meeting.
Yes.
But then it was postponed, the meeting was set up with HR. And that meeting took place on 27 February. On the letter of Commissioner Mapieye, the date that it was issued is actually 6 March. Because the letter wasn't issued before the meeting. It must be a typo because we actually had on the 5th of March, we had drafted the item already based on what was discussed in that meeting. We must provide all the information to HR. So the letter that Commissioner Mapie signed referenced the 27 February meeting which we was held with HR. It is that meeting at page 52 where we held a meeting with HR.
So you are suggesting that the date at page 50 might be wrong. Instead of 6 February, it must read 6 March 2024.
Correct.
And I think that attached to that would appear to be a report dated the 5th of March 2024. So I think that correction would accord actually with the contents of the document at the report at page 51, which is
Correct,
of a later
Commissioners.
date.
Even paragraph 1, Advocate Silla on page 50, it refers to a meeting of 24 February. So
Indeed, 27 February.
yeah, 27.
Yes. So we do accept that typo. Do you want to deal with this report starting at paragraph 51?
At this meeting that we held on the 27th of meeting, the people present there was Ms. Kasheka, who is the head of human resources. She was the chair. There was Mr. Lefu Makoba, Colonel Van Rooyen from the Metro Police, Brigadier Julius Mkonasi, Colonel Ivan Duplessis, and there was also Mr. Maripe Matakocha. He's the divisional head at corporate HR. And then it was discussed there is to say that we as Metro Police cannot do this process. The process must be restarted on suggestion from Brigadier Mkonasi from scratch because the people who took the fingerprints and the people who's involved in this process cannot be trusted. And then it was resolved by Kasheka that we will submit our complete database together with the draft report and the letter to her office, and it shall be managed by Lefu Makoba. So, and we must provide all the information, everything over to them, and it will then be dealt with them. So, obviously we came back and the next day we submitted this draft. What we say is a draft report is normally corporate human resources will do a council report because it's human resources and HR related, but to expedite the process, we drafted the whole item already for them to say this is what we suggest, and we submitted that to them. The Excel spreadsheet itself, I encrypted it with a serious password, and I then sent that via email to Lefu Makoba, and I've sent the password via WhatsApp to him. We had up and down email correspondence where he stated he cannot open it because he forwarded it to some other people, and I explained to him, well, I don't want to release it where you can forward it to anyone else because it's POPI. POPI Act is critical, and this is containing all the database information of employees plus criminal records, and I don't want this to be circulated in the department at all. When eventually he came back and he sees it, everyone, and he says, but provide the password to him via email. So after about a week later, he said to me, but POPI doesn't apply because it's internal correspondence, and I then sent the password via email to him as well, which he then replied back to me to say, okay, you can open it now. It was then forwarded, this item, and everything was forwarded to corporate and legal, and corporate and legal made comments to say that our approach as Metro Police is wrong. We cannot do, because our suggestion was that we give the employees a chance to provide their expungement proof, and if nothing of that happens, is that they then be either dismissed or that disciplinary steps be taken against them. So corporate and legal came back and says, no, you cannot dismiss them, you cannot do this process, we must leave it in the hands of corporate HR. And exactly at that point, that's where it stopped. It never went further than that at all again.
Can I find out from you, you say Ms. Kashaka directed that you submit all the data that you had collected by then, including what's reflected at RS21 and RS20, which we shall deal with shortly, which is a summary of the nature of the crimes that members were found either to have been guilty of or awaiting trial for. Who is Mr. Lefu Makoba, What position did he hold at the time? And what particular expertise did he have in regard to matters of vetting? Do you know?
I do not know his exact position that he held, but he was at corporate HR and he used to report to the division head employee relations, Kolani and Nisa, who would be in a better position to actually explain Lefo Makoba's position. But Lefo was always involved in where disciplinary matters, position to actually explain Lefo Makoba's position. But Lefo was always involved in where disciplinary matters is operated from. So he was running in that section. I don't know his exact position, but he was dealing with the disciplinary cases at the back end in the HR process.
You also indicate that in that same meeting where this instruction was given, present was a Mr. Maripe Matakoja. Who is that? And what position did he hold?
At that stage, I also didn't know his position there, but Mr. Matakocha was a normal HR person, most probably a senior manager or divisional head at HR. And he was the one who, during my suspension, which I will come to much later, he's the one who signed and recommended it. So I know Mr. Matakocha. Also, in my earlier testimony, I mentioned the incident where council took a resolution to adopt a new structure. Mr. Matakocha is the one who presented this new structure and the one who I discussed with, where he stated to me that my position is not in the structure anymore, but they will keep me till my contract ends and I will be on the site and read newspapers or provide information to them and assist everyone during my period when the contract is still running.
As a matter of interest, in that period when you were supposed to read newspapers, did the EMPD undertake to provide you with the newspapers, or were you expected to buy them for yourself?
Commissioners, no, I believe it was tongue-in-cheek from him, just making a stupid remark. It's because I was cross because of the fact that even in my mind, I couldn't understand how you can change a complete municipal police structure organigram without consulting any of the municipal police officers. Not management, not me as a divisional head. That whole structure was changed by corporate HR without any input from us at all. We didn't even discuss it and we didn't give input into it. And then council makes this resolution and we discover it when it's leaked from the council, because the moment it goes in a council resolution, it becomes a public document. And we obviously discover it then. And in this arguments, when I ask him, so where am I? Why am my position not here? And that's when I won't say tongue-in-cheek remark is, but you've got a contract, we will pay you your salary. What do you worry about? You can sit and read newspapers every day.
We dealt with your RS21, which is that big document that provides the results for vetting in respect of all 3,700 members. You have summarized this. No, you haven't summarized it. Insofar as crimes committed or convicted for, you have put this in a table format, a graph format rather, to indicate the extent and the nature of the crimes and the extent to which members are either convicted currently or are facing charges for. Would you like to talk to this graph?
On page 60, I have created this graph, and it's obviously in the spreadsheet, just a graph which is sorted from the highest amount of crimes. And the crimes as it's captured is obviously, as it comes from the 69, it is just like a abbreviation of the crime. And it then runs from the top of assault cases where officers were found guilty for assault with a total of 58 as the most. And it goes down to uttering, which is 1. Must I read every one of them, commissioners?
I think you can just highlight the key ones, or maybe I won't say the most concerning, because all crimes are concerning.
So from the top, it goes assault was 58, theft cases was 41, driving under the influence is 33, reckless and negligent driving 28, murder awaiting trial was 15, fraud awaiting trial was 14, robbery awaiting trial was 8.
May I interrupt you there? Okay, we don't have to go through all of them. Just based on what you've just read, murder awaiting trial 15, fraud awaiting trial 14, robbery awaiting trial 8, fraud 7. So effectively, these are members in the system who are awaiting trial or convicted for these crimes,
With the exception of fraud, Miss.
except for the exception of fraud.
Yes.
Yes.
The murder, there is already a little bit lower down. There is 4 officers that's been found guilty for murder as well. So there is 15 awaiting trial, meaning they haven't been found guilty yet. Their trial is still ongoing. But further down the list, there's 4 for murder. There's 4 for rape. There's 3 for robbery. So even though at the top there's a awaiting trial portion, there is officers that have been found guilty already that is in the service with criminal records, very serious criminal records.
And
you say those convictions are in respect of murder, rape, and fraud. Did you say
The
convictions?
very,
The convictions.
if I categorize from what I consider as serious crime for police officers, there's like negligent loss of firearm is 6, but if we go to things like extortion is 5, housebreaking is 5, kidnapping is 5, murder is 4, rape is 4, robbery is 3, pointing of firearm, defeating, gathering act. So from the highest list, which is more related to the Schedule 1 type of offences, the murder, the rapes, and that there is, and then there's at the top the awaiting trial portions that is still not concluded.
just to make sure we read it correctly, in some instances, taking for instance, an example, fraud, you have fraud awaiting trial, then you have fraud. You see that at the top.
Correct.
Where you have not indicated awaiting trial, does that mean the figures you give are in respect of convictions?
Correct, Commissioners.
So anything here that is not highlighted as awaiting trial, these are all members have these convictions, including rape, murder.
Correct, Commissioners.
And they're in the system.
Correct.
And robbery.
Yes, Chair. Okay.
Commissioner, because you said earlier that when you join the service, you get vetted, can we conclude from this document that these offenses were committed after the members entered the service? Because I'm assuming if they were committed before, you would not have become a member of EMPD because you would have failed the vetting.
No, Commissioner. That is unfortunately an assumption on your side.
Yeah.
Some of these cases stem back from the late 80s, 90s, and how the officers passed the initial recruitment process is also unknown to me then, because their fingerprints were taken, but how they get forced into the system, I don't know. But these records obviously relate to everything the South African Police Service have as a criminal record based on the fingerprints. And some of the cases, if you look at the convictions, the conviction dates were long ago as well, prior to their actual appointment date. There's one which is a very strange matter. It has been reported to us as well. There was an officer, he's out of the service now because he got caught again and then he was sentenced to imprisonment and he sits in prison. The officer was found guilty of murder. He was never sentenced. And this is a very old case, which I don't understand as a policeman how that happened, if you can be found guilty of murder and then not sentenced. But it's an old case. It's things that we picked up.
What is the policy? What is the EMPD policy regarding the employment of people who have previous convictions?
It's legislation that prescribes it. It's in terms of Regulation 11 of the Municipal Police Services, one of the requirements of the minimum requirements to be appointed as a member is that you may not have a previous criminal record, except if it's politically motivated or there's a specific wording related to that. But you may not have a criminal record upon appointment. It's one of the challenging factors we have, specifically of interpretation in Ekurhuleni, not in the rest of the country, but in Ekurhuleni they interpret the words, because the sub-regulation starts with the exact words, upon appointment, you may not have a criminal record. They take it as upon appointment, not your career. So it's as if they, as HR, think, well, you can be appointed and thereafter you can build a career of criminals. And that is maybe something that need to be changed, that it makes the word less interpretation available for people to say, but you may never have a criminal, in my mind, you may never have a criminal record as a policeman. There could be, and this is something that I say with respect, there could be matters that is happening in your career, which could be waived, or there could be a process of expungement that happened. As an example, you could be involved in an incident where there's, let's say, serious robbery or a cash in transit, and there's a shooting incident, and you shoot a robber, but you also shoot an innocent citizen, and you get found guilty for culpable homicide, maybe, in that matter. In the execution of your duties, and you won't really have intent or anything like that, there could be an expungement process if the law allows it. But at the moment, the law states, upon appointment, you shall not have a criminal record. And this is interpreted by Ekurhuleni HR to mean that that day when I was appointed, 1 April 1991, I didn't have a record then. Or when we established as the Metro Police, 16 February 2002, I didn't have a criminal record at that day. But thereafter, it is an open field according to them. There is no policy as well, and that is problematic. There's no policy what happens if an officer do get a criminal record during his service. There should be an incapacity process where you are not fit to be a policeman anymore, and you should be worked out of the system. One of the things that is absolutely critical, but this is my own opinion, there's a few others that have the same opinion, is that in terms of the singularity of what the Constitution, singularity of policing in the country, where all policing service must be the same manner, is that we can have different payrolls, meaning that local government, you're employed by local government or you're employed by national police. But at the bottom end, the standards of a disciplinary agreement, the way that you are being dealt with as a policeman should be the same. We have, for instance, a large challenge because my officers are locally bound. Ekurhuleni officer is employed in Ekurhuleni. The Ekurhuleni HR systems, computer systems, for instance, doesn't have access to Home Affairs, Harness, or the African Police. There's no interface between these systems. So my officer can physically go to Durban on holiday, and he can commit a rape, he can commit a robbery, he can commit anything wrong there. We will never know it happened. The officer can come back, and every time he has to appear in court, he takes a day's leave and he fly out, and we will only discover it if he doesn't pitch for work one day because he sits in prison. And there's even a strange anomaly that happened now. One of our officers was found guilty of murder. He actually, at Vosloorus police station, he shot and killed his wife, who was a captain in the police. He shot and killed her in the charge office of the police station. Our police station and their police station is very close to one another. They're separated by like a parking space between us. And he shot and killed his wife. He came out of the police station, and then obviously everyone, it's blue on blue, police and Metro Police all rush out because of the shot. And then he tried to commit suicide, and he shot himself in the head. He was paramedics on scene, rescued. He actually looks like he sustained no damage, and he was released from hospital. He was eventually found guilty, and he was incarcerated, and I believe it was like a period of 15 years. He came out on parole now in this year, and he lodged an unfair dismissal case because he wasn't processed in the correct manner, and Ekurhuleni reinstated him. So the systems doesn't speak to one another, and that is something that if we, for instance, want to take, if I want to check if my officer have a criminal record, I don't have any access to it at all. I cannot see it. The only manner I can do it is I take his fingerprints manually, I submit it to South African Police Service. I, as municipal police, must pay the South African Police Service either 85 or 180 rand as a government entity to South African Police Service to say, please check this fingerprints for me. They will take weeks and months to do it and then come back with a result to me. So I, as a municipal police, don't have access to criminal records of my officers. My officer could be in domestic violence incidents, be involved at home against his spouse or wife, and the police could hold an inquiry about his fitness to possess a firearm in terms of the Firearms Control Act. Or there could be a domestic violence protection order against the officer, and where the court makes a ruling that he's unfit to possess a firearm. That is captured into SAP systems and court systems. I don't have access to that. What we have in the meantime arranged between us and the South African Police Service is that we provide them with a list of our officers' names. And then at the end of every month, the South African Police Service draw an extract of the firearm unfit list to us to say the following officers have been captured in their system as unfit to possess a firearm. But that is one of the critical things that is a problem, is that we have even approached SALGA, which is the government the South African Local Government Association, which is the employer actually, to say to them, can we please, and we already had workshops around this, can we have a separate set of conditions of service for municipal police officers than the rest of council, which is aligned to this, to be similar to say, it's not the same because it's two different organizations, but that we have systems and disciplinary agreements that a policeman must not only act in the same manner towards every citizen, but he must also be treated in the same manner at the back end. And that unfortunately doesn't exist.
Thank you, Commissioner. You concluded paragraph 52, basically that all this information was shared with Ms. Kasheka's department as per her instruction. So she and her department became aware of what you have just shared with the commission. Is that correct?
Correct.
You then say this process was subsequently halted and to date no further steps have been taken.
Correct, Commissioner.
I take it when you say it was halted, do you mean that it just didn't proceed any further?
Correct. Nothing further happened. We haven't had any meetings further to that effect. Nothing else in the department took place.
Was there any feedback by Ms. Kasheka as the head of HR or her office as regards this vetting process? Was there any formal communication to
There was no further feedback from Kasheka and neither from Lefo, even though on the sidelines I harassed him the whole time and asked him what's happening. There was no further feedback.
And you recall from Chief Mapie's directive of the 21st of December 2022, he had indicated that disciplinary action will be instituted against non-compliance. What did Chief Mapie at this juncture, which we say is around the 6th of March 2024, do when this process was halted, with the results that you have highlighted in both Annexure RS20 and RS21 regarding members who've got criminal records in the system and members who refuse to be vetted? What did the chief do about all this?
Chief Mapie was already under tremendous pressure of being either suspended or placed on special leave. And I don't know if there was nothing that I, as deputy chief, ever saw that was ever done against any of these officers who refused to submit their fingerprints, or even the people who had a guilty that was found guilty. There was no further steps taken against any of these officers.
So, you're suggesting that Chief Mapie could potentially have been under one of his many suspensions at the time?
Correct.
Because we know that he was finally suspended. The latest is the 25th of September 2024. And this is happening around the 6th of March 2024.
Commissioner Mapie was already in August 2023, after Brigadier Makonasi's disciplinary case has been pushed aside and trying to be stalled. There was already incidents where the city manager, Mashazi, actually in front of me, she said to him, I'm suspending you now. So this happened here 17, 18 August 2023 already. So he was already suspended, even though the records will indicate at a later stage they altered the documents to actually make that he was placed on special leave for 30 days and Makonasi was placed in his position to act. So it was a constant harassment against him, and there was no continuity that anyone do it. But as far as my knowledge is, up to the date when I retired on 28 February, nothing was done against these officers at all. And the process was not started or concluded at all.
And equally so, there was no explanation from the upper echelons of EMPD as to the status of this process or why it is not proceeding. It was never communicated to the divisional heads.
Correct, Commissioner.
Was this, to your knowledge, was this matter ever reported to council of Ekurhuleni?
It wasn't formally reported to council, and that I know of. I do know that there were council questions. The process of council work where councillors will, during a council, they will submit written questions, and then the individual departments must answer. So I know that there have been questions from councillors that was raised in council, but because it is an HR-related issue, it was never answered by our department. We saw the questions, but it was always answered by HR. I don't know their answers because I don't see other departments' answers. But from Metro Police, it was because it is HR-related, it was always pushed back towards HR to say, answer this question.
Is it then fair to assume that equally so, you do not know what attitude council adopted on this matter?
No, I don't know the attitude of council against this matter.
You conclude then at paragraph 55 to say, to your knowledge, Brigadier Julius Mkhwanazi is not vetted, neither has his fingerprints been checked. I guess what we do is to qualify that as at the date of your retirement.
Correct. At
Things
the date
could have
of
happened post your retirement.
Not been vetted.
Okay.
Commissioner, that conclusion, while it speaks to Brigadier Mkhwanazi, it would be fair from your evidence to say, in fact, his whole specialized services unit that had refused to be vetted as at the time of your departure. To your knowledge, none of them had been vetted.
Correct, Commissioner. For criminal records, there's not a single person, except Commissioner Mapie, there's not a single person in the Ekurhuleni Metro Police who has been fully vetted with a classification from either crime intelligence or from the State Security Agency.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi. Commissioners, please, that then takes us to your next heading. You had dealt with the systemic concerns regarding vetting. Do you recall that? Just to verify your paragraphs 53 and 54. You reference your own
correct, Commissioners. It is, as I stated earlier, is that Commissioner Mkhwanazi, when he was instructed, the three of us were instructed to be fully vetted by, and as I stated earlier, crime intelligence as a division of South African Police Services is the one that was tasked to actually vet us all. But crime intelligence has huge capacity problems. So we then, together with the portfolio committee, was arranged that State Security Agency assist us so that there's two capacities where we can actually do the process. And an arrangement was made at national level through the Chiefs Forum, specifically with state security agencies to assist us to vet all the levels from Chief of Police for all the municipal police services, from Chief of Police to at least brigadier level, at the top management, plus their secretaries and people who have access to sensitive information, because we all attend meetings with the National Police Commissioner, with Parliament, with Prof joints, with NAT joints, and therefore a decision was made that SSA will assist us to get this process rolling. And that instruction was given by Commissioner Mapie to the three of us that we shall ensure that we submit our fingerprints, a pack of forms to do this vetting. There's a very thick pack of forms and documents that you must add it. You must, for instance, add bank records and information like that. And Commissioner Mkhwanazi at that stage, he blatantly refused and says he will not be vetted. He is exempted from being vetted. That is his words that he actually used. He's exempted from being vetted. It's not part of his contract.
Commissioner, yesterday we made very good progress on pronouncing Mkhwanazi. Let's revert to that, please.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner, when you say at that point, Brigadier Mkhwanazi blatantly said that he will not be vetted, is this a different discussion in addition to the big meeting that you had where he walked out?
Correct, Commissioners. The first meeting that we had in the February was dealing with the vetting, and we used the word vetting actually wrongly. It's with a criminal check. So the first one was dealing with a criminal check of all employees, just fingerprints, criminal check. The vetting exercise is when you actually do a full vetting of, it's close to a lifestyle audit, and it's done by crime intelligence or by state security agency, where they verify your interaction with foreign agents, passports, travel out of the country. They have referees that you must provide, that they go and check your bank records, all your assets must be declared, and they then verify it. And you even go at the end of all the investigations done by them, you will go for a polygraph test. And only if, I think, obviously if you pass everything, then they will issue a certificate or classification of specific vetting. And it was also decided at the meeting that we will be vetted up to a top secret level, which is only valid for 5 years, where a confidential level is valid for 10 years, to make sure that we have the correct vetting.
And this vetting, do you know if the city manager ever became aware that this was required to be done and that Brigadier Mkhwanazi had refused to do it?
I do not know if there was any communication to the city manager.
Okay. Thank you.
But sorry, commissioners, it is part of vetting is also when you're appointed in the senior manager positions in terms of local government structures, you must also comply with what we call the COCTA aptitude and test, and vetting is part of that as well in that process. So she should have known this process because of, maybe not because of the police angle, but definitely because of the senior management angle.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Did you say that the call he made at a meeting was to the head of HR? When you say he was visibly annoyed, even frothing at the mouth.
No, he made the call directly to the city manager.
To the city manager.
He called the city manager, and then when
the city manager was aware then of the.
It was about the fingerprints checking that his unit and he hasn't been checked.
Okay.
So he made a call about that. It's not about the vetting. Okay. The vetting came a little bit later when the letter was sent to us for full vetting.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioner Spisset. And then you conclude that discussion with your own clearance certificate that you say it's valid until the 31st of August 2030. And that will be your annex to RS22, you confirm?
That's correct, Commissioners.
And this is issued by SSA State Security?
Correct, Commissioners.
We then move to the next topic from page 24, and here you deal with the suspension of Chief Mapie and other irregular appointments within EMPD. Let's start with paragraph 56, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
So on the 17th of August 2023, early in the morning, there were WhatsApps being circulated that Chief Mapie will be suspended. And it's like, people make these comments and remarks the whole time. I just ignore all of that going on, and my office is complaining to me what's happening with this. And then the afternoon, we received an instruction that all the brigadiers and the deputy chiefs must immediately report to the city manager's boardroom in Germiston. Upon arrival, as we started to walk in through where the receptionist stood, as we start to walk in, and this is senior people, this is myself, the deputy chief, the chief of police, and the brigadiers there were, I think it's 8 brigadiers, I will just count them again, but I've listed their names. As we walked in, the VIP protection officers from the city manager who's protecting her confiscated all our cell phones, mobile devices, tablets, and even our computers. And they didn't allow us into the boardroom with any electronic devices. But I walked in with I've got a notebook diary, everything. When I attend meetings, I make notes of everything as I go along. Normally, I would make notes electronically, and then later I will, because it's faster for me to type and then write. I'm right very ugly. But in the meeting itself, I actually made notes in my notebook, and I recorded the whole meeting from the notes. I tried to write as fast as possible as individual was speaking. And immediately after the meeting concluded, I left for home. And when I got home, I then typed that whole meeting over from the notebook, so that while it's still fresh in my mind, where I can see I used an abbreviation that only I would know. I would actually just expand the abbreviation and type the minutes over. I have attached that photocopies of my notebook as well to say, but I took photos of the specific notebook in case the notebook ever goes missing. Then I have photos of the notebook as well.
And the photocopies of your notebook are attached as RS23, and the transcribed notes typed are RS23 small a in bracket A. Confirm that.
That's correct.
Now, and starting from page 96 with RS23. The actual notebook from which you took the pictures that now make up an extra RS23, you still have that notebook.
Correct.
Should the commissioners need to satisfy themselves that this is not your creation post fact? You have the actual notebook.
I still have the notebook, and I forwarded this in WhatsApps as well. So there's even proof to date and timestamp this. There's also, as I wrote to my notebook, it starts at 12 o'clock, and when I ended the meeting, it ended at 15:45 at the end of my notebook of this notes.
Okay. Having then confirmed that, I think we shall not subject the commission to your handwriting. So perhaps we turn to Annex RS23 bracket A to understand what transpired at that meeting.
The order around the table, and as they are listed, the attendees, it is the order that they sat. I sat with around the table in the boardroom to my left, and if you see, my name is right at the bottom, just before Mrs. Kasheka's name. The city manager sat at the head of the table, and as you go around from her, as I'm facing the boardroom, it was the city manager, then it was Chief Mapie, then it was at that stage Brigadier Mkwanasi, and then Brigadier van der Merwe, Deputy Chief Mazolo, Deputy Chief Twabe, Brigadier Nkosi. It was then this side of the table was Mr. Letwaba, Director Brigadier Gina, Brigadier Maslangu, and Brigadier Besaidenout, and then myself, and then Ma'am Kasheka from this side. So we sat around the table. The city manager opened it, and she was lambasting the department and stating stuff that our revenue collection has dropped. It's no tools of trade. She stated that the ammunition tender has been refused because the NEL, at that stage, we had an ammunition tender where the only manufacturer of large-scale ammunition in this country was PMP, which is a subsidiary of the NEL, Pretoria Metal Pressing Works, that makes 9mm ammunition. So we had what we call a Section 110, Section 32 process buying transversal from another state department process. And this failed because she refused to have it done because she stated the NEL is directly involved in state capture, and we must go out on an open tender again so that we can do it. And she then stated she appointed Spies, who was me, but there's no changes in the department. This is a year after my appointment. And she carried on lambasting everything, low staff morale. And what is critical about what she's saying and the way she is saying it is that everyone else was then given a chance to speak, except I didn't get a chance. Just before the meeting, Commissioner Mapie spoke to me in the passages as we walked up the stairs. And he said to me, Commissioner Spies, please do not say anything today. Let us just take whatever is said, punishment, whatever is said, and let us go fix it at the back end. Because the city manager is out to get you. Don't say anything. So I said to him, Chief, it's fine. I'll keep quiet. I don't want to lambaste anything or bring anything out in the open. We'll fix the department as we go along. So everyone got a chance to vent. But commissioners, when Mkwanasi started to speak, everything that he said was as if he and the city manager had colluded and they were speaking the same speech. And he was making comments about this de facto chiefs. The Chief Mapie is a bad manager and he's not running the department good enough because there's de facto chiefs. And he mentioned that I'm one of the chiefs that runs the department.
Perhaps, apologies, Commissioner Spies. It might be easiest and quickest if we deal with that side of things with reference to the actual transcribed quote unquote meeting. And for that purpose, I would refer you to page 105. Having listed the attendees and you highlight that the meeting was open, you have at the bottom of that page a recordal of what was stated by JM. And according to your attendees list, you have JM as the director, JM Kwanazi.
He was at that stage appointed as the Director Specialized Services with a brigadier rank.
Okay, perhaps then if you just read that paragraph at the bottom of 105 to about literally the first quarter of 106. Thank you.
Commissioners, if I can just go 2 paragraphs back, because it touches on what later actually happens as well.
Please
It
do.
states where the whole punch is through it is that never before have we opened cases against one another and running to IPID to open cases. She can also play the same game and go to IPID to open cases against us. She can do the very same thing we do. Why are we doing it? It must be stopped. Directors are treated differently. One gets overtime while the others don't. And dealing with investigations criminally. There's way too many labor cases. It's clear that we are leaderless. The department is dysfunctional. And then she addressed Chief Mapie. Mapie, what happened? It's your second term. She addresses the chief directly. And then she asks, who wants to say something? And a group of the officers put their hands up. JM then started to say, CM, he addressed her. He doesn't speak to anyone else. He says, the department is dysfunctional. We don't have a chief of police. I work for government, not using my connections. But in this department, only people who have connections are promoted or listened to. And all the connections are from Benoni. No one else in EMPD, and only they are close to the chief. We have another de facto chief of police, Duplessis, that gives instructions as if he's running the department, and then seniors must listen to him, a junior. And if you refuse, then he threatens you defying the chief's instructions. Another chief superintendent, Tipa, also have been arrested and not suspended, and no steps taken against. Then another de facto chief, Spies. I'm not even respecting or saluting him anymore. Said by him as nothing, but he runs the department. Projects, logistics projects never discussed with him or with ops, just to whatever he wishes. Supporting but sit in another land. No talking with ops, who took projects or even precincts. No funds, but before COVID there was funds. He sits at office, 300 people but no space. No toilet, all a mess. Another de facto chief of police, Nisa. He will deal with officers you cannot raise any issues. Cases are open and they do the planning exit strategy. Henny Erasmus are remote controlled by Spies and Mapie. Integrity and standards are hiding in cupboards. Anyone not close will be nailed. I lost respect for them and refused to salute them. Operations, no one is clean in this department. Bricks is coming, nothing is done, no one is signing off. If his name is on it, then no one will sign. Ubaba. Burying alive. He went to see Mapie and was forced to sit and wait for 5 hours. As a senior, he had to wait while he was in his office. He only saw him after Deputy Chief Mazolo arrived.
And that those words you attribute to Brigadier Mkwanazi in the meeting.
Correct.
The meeting then continued, and I see there are different speakers as your note reflects. Is there anything in particular you'd like to draw the Commission's attention to?
The other speakers had just very, very little to say. They had like 1 or 2 sentences. So Brigadier van der Merwe, for instance, that because she mentioned the ammunition tender, he just submitted to her that we have initiated the tender again, and we have submitted already application to supply chain. We're waiting for a contract number, and we have specifications ready. Then she answered him immediately back to say, but your specifications must be changed so that there can be successful bidders. And he answers back to say, but our specifications are as per legislation and are correct, but it will be submitted as soon as we have a contract number. The main portion, and that is linked to previous discussions already, when we procure ammunition, one of the requirements in our tenders is that the supplier who gets the tender must have a dealership license from the South African Police Service, CFR. because only people who have a dealership license may deal with ammunition. And what has happened is that companies have been appointed in the past where they don't have a dealership license, they become a middleman. So they effectively will buy the ammunition from someone and then sell it to us. And that is illegal because you are then in possession, even if it's just on paper maybe. But the ammunition must be delivered by us in terms of the tender at our offices. And that transfer of the ammunition and moving of it, the company who provides us must comply and be legal. So there was an instruction from her that we must remove that requirement that anyone can provide the ammunition to us. And the answer was, but we cannot. The law says there must be this in it. And that's what Brigadier van der Merwe then answered her back. Mr. Mazzolo, just everyone you'll see has a very, very little input into it. It was more, there's problems with our structure. The council was busy with a reorganization and the structure was not yet implemented and officers were placed. So a lot of officers were making comments about the structure. Brigadier Nkosi, he is also originating from the so-called Benoni officers. And where this remark comes from is that when the Metro Police were established or the city of Ekurhuleni was established, it was an amalgamation of 9 existing councils, which is the Benoni, Kempton, Nigel, Boksburg, Brakpan, Springs, Alberton, Germiston, and Edenvale. Those cities were amalgamated into one. So, and obviously, when the Metro Police was started, the traffic officers from those departments were the inauguration members and founding members of the municipal police. And then there's groupings, because officers obviously know one another well. They've been working for years together. So groupings started to happen, that there's a group of officers from Benoni, and there's a group of officers from Germiston, or a group from Kempton Park. And the illusion here is that the officers from Benoni are being treated specially. And Brigadier Nkosi is also an ex-Benoni officer. So he started to say, CM, the Benoni employees, that Brigadier Julius Makonal, and immediately she cut him off. Stop, don't speak about what anyone here has said. It's if you want to say anything else. So everyone was, it's as if the meeting was done so that Julius Makonasi can speak, she can speak. The rest was just there as ad lib for a short paragraph and that. And
Before you move ahead, I think we have a sense of who the main drivers of the meeting were. And for whatever reason, others did not or could not speak. I would like to draw your attention to at page 107. There is a conversation there, or there is an input being made by OB, and going back to the list of attendees, you have OB listed as Director O. Bezuidenhout, correct?
Bezuidenhout, correct.
I mean, I tried to read what you have recorded here, and perhaps you are best placed to explain it to us all. It starts at about midway of page 107, where OB says, ma'am, just 2 things. Disciplinary matters, hearings, outcomes are dismissed by 90%. Then it's going to deal with WOA roadblocks and the like. Would you like to expound on that, please?
The disciplinary matters hearings that he refers there to is that a lot of our officers, the disciplinary hearings take place, but because we are working under the SALGBC SALGA disciplinary hearing process, the chairpersons are not from the Metro Police. They could be from any department. And the officers are treated as if they're normal council employees. And then if the officer committed, for instance, it could be a matter of bribery, where the officer stopped an offender and he took money from him. And then there's a whole disciplinary case that happened, is that the officer it's possible that he would be dismissed by the chairperson, but then that officer will run to the Labour Court and he will be reinstated because HR will not contest the matter and the officer will be reinstated. It also happens when the chairpersons, when an officer, for instance, it's a simple incident that took place during COVID. There was obviously lockdown level 5 and 4 where no one was allowed to travel or move in the country except if you have certificates. And the police were obviously, when we were on duty, we used to work. So at one of our roadblocks, one of our off-duty officers drive into the roadblock and he was then stopped. And as he was stopped, he jumped out and he ran away and he left the car behind. But because he was stupid, the officers know him. He works with them. They went to his house and that. But in the meantime, it was discovered that the vehicle he was traveling in was a stolen vehicle. And subsequently, he was then charged criminally, and he was found guilty for contravening the COVID regulations. The stolen vehicle portion, he wasn't found guilty eventually, because I think there's a challenge with the South African Police Service not cancelling the vehicle when it was recovered, or it was his neighbour's vehicle and he just borrowed it, and that he wasn't found criminally guilty for that. But in his disciplinary hearing, the ruling was that he be docked unpaid for 10 days. And in that unpaid, it included the public holiday as well. So he even got unpaid for a holiday as well. So it's things like that that Brigadier Besaidenout is addressing, is to say that our officers, the disciplinary process inside is broken because it's not done by us, it's done by HR, and HR appoints presiding and presenting officers, and those doesn't understand the policing environment, where we say if a police officer comes on duty drunk, to us it's extremely serious, because he drives a vehicle, he's in charge of a firearm, he can kill people while he's drunk. But to HR, it's just another employee who is drunk who must go to EAP and be treated completely different. So that is what Okut Besaidenout is referring there. The low morale that he's referring to is that there was, for a long period of time, we were not allowed to appoint anyone because of the structural changes between 2015 and 2019, and no structure has yet been approved, and we're implementing a new structure, and the existing people must first be placed in the structure. So it happened that due to natural attrition, is that the supervisory level, which is the more senior older people, would start to actually vacate the premise or vacate the service, is that we have a large amount of officers acting as supervisors, and there's no real appointed. The WAs, it stands for warrant of arrest. We have a warrant of arrest units, and we do warrant of arrest operations with roadblocks, where the printed warrant of arrest and digital versions of that we would stop public during a normal roadblock, and we will verify the existence of warrant of arrest. That is what he's discussing it. And then the Drager, when he speaks about the Drager must be calibrated or not, we received a donation from the South African breweries where they donated Dragers to us over and above our Drager, but there was because it was their Drager to be used and our Drager, there was a discrepancy about who must calibrate them. It's not ours, it's theirs. And then eventually it changed into where a formal donation was made and a formal handover process where council adopted and then assetized and accepted the Dragers, and then that is what the Drager references to that.
Okay, now so I understand, this Drager you reference here, is that a breathalyzer tool to measure alcohol content in one's body?
That's correct. When you do drunken driving, anti-drunken driving operations at roadblocks, it's an evidentiary breathalyzer machine.
So, and one of them is donated to EMPD by SAB.
South African Breweries.
Okay.
Yes.
You indicated earlier, I think when you started this conversation, that you didn't get an opportunity to speak in this meeting.
Correct. It's actually.
But if you look at page 107 there, after dealing with the Drager, it reads CM. I take it that's the city manager. Rivo, correct. No, you do not have your hand up, and then you say, no, ma'am, I did not have my hand up, and then you speak thereafter.
Because at that stage, she mentioned in the beginning, and we've got a loss of revenue or a lack of revenue. And my division, auxiliary services, deal with fine administration and municipal courts. We are the ones that report the revenue. So it's not that we can generate revenue. We're the ones that report it, because the officers on the road is the ones who raise the notices and the fines, but we are the ones that capture it and actually deposit the money, so we can report back on the revenue. So I wanted to address what she said in the beginning about the revenue. And I started to speak, but then she says, no, Revo, you did not have your hand up, because initially she only stated who wants to say something and that. And then the chief interjected to say, because I did acknowledge I didn't have my hand up, but she made a remark after everyone was given the opportunity that I need to address now. And then chief answered her to say, CM, I just want Revo to explain more about the fines portion. And then he says, Chief, no, he did not have his hands up. Revo, do you have anything to say? And I said, just 2 clarifications. And then she immediately interjected again to say, you're not dealing with what I said around the table. Only my issues I said in the beginning. And then I said, it's the 2 issues you speak with, what you said initially. the one matter where you spoke about the one director getting overtime and the others not. This is at that moment, it's a highly contentious issue in the department. Because there are 8 directors, of which Brigadier van der Merwe is he's in logistics reporting to me, and the other directors is in operations. The Chief of Police issued an instruction linked to capacity about saving cost earlier in the year, where we were supposed to cut 50% of our expenditure budget, and overtime was cut and down to a maximum of, for admin staff, 32 hours, and for operational officers to 40 hours. And in that same instruction, the overtime for brigadiers was stopped completely because they were not supposed to respond to it. They're on standby and they're dealing with it. So overtime was stopped for them completely. They're also earning way above the threshold, the Labour Relations Act or the Basic Conditions of Employment Act threshold. So they're not really even entitled to overtime. But we did pay them overtime if they work operations or anything. And we use an electronic capturing system for some, and some use a manual paper feed. The e-left is the system that is being captured on. And Brigadier van der Merwe captured time due, meaning that he won't get paid overtime, but he will take time due in lieu of the overtime that he have worked. So he captured on his electronic system, he captured his time due. At the end of May, the payroll system paid him the overtime. And then he went back to the payroll to say, you made a mistake. You paid me overtime. I worked.
And we take a pause from the Madlanga Commission. On the stand still is the EMPD Deputy Chief, retired EMPD Deputy Chief Rivos Peace, who's continuing to give his testimony at the Madlanga Commission, day 2 for him. Excuse me. And when we come back, we'll go to the ad hoc committee in Parliament because Shamila Batoyi is the one who's giving testimony today. But for now, it's 11. It's time for the news.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Thank you, KG. On the top stories, Demande brothers arrive at King Shaka Airport for AKA murder case, and Wits SRC member accused of rape has been suspended. For SAFM News, I am Onde Lambana, and a very good morning. Then Demande brothers linked to the AKA murder case have arrived at the King Shaka International Airport in Durban. The suspects who were extradited from Eswatini to South Africa have been arrested for the murders of Keenan, AKA Forbes, and Tibelo Tibbs Mutswane, who were shot dead at a restaurant in Durban in 2023. Police say that one of the suspects is believed to have pulled the trigger which killed AKA. National Police spokesperson Atlanta Mate says the pair will be processed, charged, and are expected to appear in court later today.
The 2 brothers are wanted on 3 cases. The first one being the murder of a taxi boss in Amanzimtoti in 2022. The second case is the murders of AKA and Tibbs Mutswane. The third case is the murder of a driver of a taxi boss, as well as the attempted murder of his wife. And we strongly believe that one of the 2 brothers is the one that actually pulled the trigger that killed AKA. So we've got overwhelming evidence that places them on the crime scene of all these cases that I've mentioned.
The case against controversial businessman Vusumuzi Katmatlala and his 4 co-accused has been transferred from the Alexandra Magistrates Court to the High Court in Johannesburg for trial. Matlala and his co-accused will now face 11 attempted murder charges, as well as conspiracy to commit murder, possession of unlicensed firearms and ammunition, amongst others. This is in relation to the alleged botched hit on his former girlfriend, Tabugo Tobejane, in October 2023. Matlala also faces 2 other attempted murder charges of Sunki DJ Vetis Mokubong and businessman Josie Banyoni. Gauteng NPA spokesperson Pindim Jonondwana.
We did receive the approval for the centralization of the Pretoria dockets, which was that of Sibanyoni and others, conspiracy to commit murder, as well as charges of attempted murder, unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition. So in that case, as well as the Pretoria docket of DJ Veti, Mr. Mukubung, who's the complainant in the matter, So all of these matters now will form one trial, which will be heard before the High Court of Johannesburg. The first appearance there is the 29th of January 2026.
The National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Shamila Batohi, will today appear before Parliament's ad hoc committee looking into concerns of national security. The committee was established after KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's allegations of criminality, corruption and political interference in the criminal justice system. Among others, it is expected that Batohi will reply to allegations by Mkhwanazi of rogue elements in the NPA. Batohi will be the 10th witness before the committee. About 168 people have been temporarily accommodated at a local community after their shacks burnt down at Plastic View Informal Settlement in Hoedspruit in Limpopo. Volunteers have been providing the families with groceries, school uniform and other basic necessities. There were no injuries in the fire. The mayor of Madlanga municipality, Teko Musulwa, says the municipality is looking for a land where the affected people will be accommodated. Musulwa Plastic View Settlement illegal and was too close to the R40 road.
I can assure you there's no longer plastic view and there'll never be. That is the end of it. We are trying to intervene is to make sure that the people who stayed there are given proper area of residence within town, just to ensure that people who work in this town stay closer to their area of employment. Yeah, we've identified 4 sites. As I speak to you, the team has gone out to ensure that the areas are prepared.
Wits University says a student representative council member accused of raping a female student has been suspended. The incident is said to have happened over the weekend. The university says the decision to suspend follows internal consultations and engagements with the Wits Investigations Office and the Gender Equity Office. Last night, Wits students held a peaceful protest against gender-based harm at the institution's Braamfontein campus. The situation remains calm this morning. Some of the students say they do not feel safe at the campus. Wits University spokesperson Shirona Patel says the institution takes such issues very seriously.
The university is looking into it, taking it seriously. If a criminal be open case as well. And we encourage people to come forward and to report as soon as possible. Not always to do so, but we try to create a safe place to have the university.
Recapping the top story, then Demande brothers linked to the AKA murder case have arrived at the King Shaka International Airport in Durban. National Police spokesperson Athlenda Mate says the pair will be processed, charged and are expected to appear in court later today. I'm Ondilambana for SFM News.
Extraordinary is built on innovation, and Vodacom Business is leading the way. Cloud that scales with your business. Security that earns trust. AI for smarter, faster decisions. IoT that connects systems and people. And connectivity that bridges every gap. With these technologies working together, Vodacom Business is helping to build a better connected, future-ready South Africa. Visit vodacombusiness.co.za. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Vodacom Business, further together. This November, SFM proudly presents the 3rd annual lecture.
And as the Freedom Charter says, no legitimate government could claim authority unless it is based on the will of the people. And I think sometimes people forget that.
SAFM invites you to our 3rd annual public lecture, delivered by Chancellor of the Nelson Mandela University, Dr. Geraldine Fraser-Moleketi. The theme of the lecture is Confronting Inequality, Corruption and Unemployment, Rebuilding South Africa's Social Contract for Inclusive and Sustainable Growth. The lecture will take place on the 27th of November 2025 at the Indaba Hotel, Spa and Conference Center in Four Ways, Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at rsvp@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
The Expresso Morning Show has been nominated in 5 categories in the 3rd Annual National Film and Television Awards South Africa.
It all happens on Saturday, the 22nd of November 2025 at the South African State Theatre in Pretoria. And public voting is open from the 13th of October to the 20th of November at midday.
So visit nationalfilmacademy.com, register and vote for Expresso Morning Show in all 5 categories.
Then, of course, catch us weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. right here on S3.
There's summer, and there's that extra summer with Vodacom's free gifts on summer deals. Like the new Honor X7D 256 gig on a 1 gig Red Core plan for just $299 per month over 36 months. And get a free Honor Watch 2i gift worth $999. Plus 5 gigs YouTube data for 3 months and free 2 months YouTube Premium. Now that's extra. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
You are the National Director of Public Prosecutions, having been appointed to that office on the 1st of February 2019 by the President in terms of 179 of the Constitution and sections 5 and 10 of the NPA Act. And you are due to retire soon.
That's correct, at the end of January 2026.
So maybe just to kick off, just describe briefly your experiences in the office, the ups and downs. Don't need to dwell too long on it.
Sure. Didn't expect this question, but I'm happy to take it. It was, well, I took office on the 1st of February 2019. I came back to South Africa having spent just short of 10 years, 9 years and 3 months at the International Criminal Court in The Hague, working in the Office of the Prosecutor as the Senior Legal Advisor to the Prosecutor of the ICC. Prior to that, I had worked in the Prosecuting Authority. This is my 40th year as a prosecutor. I was a DPP in KwaZulu-Natal, worked in various, was part of the investigation task unit that President Mandela set up in 1995 to investigate hit squads in KwaZulu-Natal. And I think before the TRC, it was perhaps the most important post-apartheid unit that was put together to investigate atrocities that were committed during the apartheid era. There were 2 prosecutors there and a team of investigators. We reported to a board. And yeah, that was 96, 97. Worked there, was the DPP in KZN, headed up the Scorpions in KwaZulu-Natal for about 2 years when it was set up. And then became the DPP, went abroad and then started here in 2019 as the National Director. Came back to South Africa to take the call to serve the people of this country. And at a time when it was a difficult decision to make, given what the country had come through. But my commitment to serve brought me back home. And coming into the National Prosecuting Authority in 2019 was a difficult situation because you were trying to rebuild an entity which, like many other entities in South Africa, SARS, the DPCI, had been hollowed out in the decade or so before that. There were huge challenges in the NPA. Some of them I could just mention briefly. It's, lack of capacities and capabilities, lack of, we had staff shortages, budgetary issues, skills and capacity, demotivated staff for various reasons. So there was a lot of work to be done. I came in without a leadership team, and it was about 18 months after I took office that my senior leadership was appointed in June of 2020, which was in the middle of COVID. We came out of COVID in 2021, and then that's when the rebuilding really started.
And it's been, as you put it, ups and downs, a roller coaster, 5 years. But I don't know how much of detail you want me to go into, but what I can maybe say at this point is that the strategy was to turn around the NPA, to rebuild the NPA so that it can really serve the people of this country in the way a prosecuting authority should. And so a lot of time was spent institution building. And that is the drudgery of institution building that doesn't make the headlines, the boring back office work, but is critical in any democracy to have strong institutions. And so there was a lot of time that we spent getting the capacities, capabilities, in order to do the work that we needed to, and that is to prosecute crime in this country. So we've done a lot of work, and I'm very pleased with how far the NPA has come in terms of institution building. And generally, the prosecuting authority is doing exceptionally well, but I can accept that there are areas where I had certainly hoped that at this time in my career, we would have gone further than where we are, particularly investigating and prosecuting state capture matters and some other forms of high-profile corruption. And there are various reasons for that. I shouldn't say for prosecuting them, perhaps to have, because many cases are in court, but getting through a court system to finality is something else, and I can talk more about that later if I'm asked. But that is perhaps the one maybe disappointment in terms of the things, how far we've come in the NPA. But apart from that, we've certainly built a strong NPA. There's a lot of work still to be done that the new national director will need to take on, but we've certainly set a very solid foundation to serve the people of this country in the way that a prosecuting authority should.
Thank you, Advocate. So perhaps we can start at the end in terms of your own statement. You accept that there's still urgent reforms that need to be effected within the NPA, and would you welcome the opportunity, this opportunity before the ad hoc committee, to discuss some of them, given that you are now addressing the lawmakers?
Sure.
We know about the much publicized Zondo Commission, the Nugent Commission into governance in SARS, but this is the first opportunity, really, isn't it, to actually engage with lawmakers in terms of what still needs to be done, reforms that need to be effected. So perhaps discuss some of those which you deal with at the end of your statement, from paragraphs 81 onwards.
Yes, thank you, Counsel. I think it's safe to say that, as I say in my affidavit, as South Africa, we are at a critical inflection point in terms of consolidating the rule of law and accountability in this country. And the allegations that have been made by General Mkhwanazi and where it has brought us, both the Madlanga Commission as well as this committee really gives us as South Africa the opportunities to consider what are the vulnerabilities in the systems. And these allegations have brought that into sharp focus in terms of the fact that there are vulnerabilities. And we have to accept that not just in South Africa, but throughout the world, institutions that are fighting for the rule of law are under serious threat and open to vulnerabilities, different types of vulnerabilities, open to compromise because of the type of the work that we do. And so this moment that we are at right now, should not be squandered. We really should use this as a catalyst for comprehensive institutional reforms that are critical to safeguard the integrity as well as the effectiveness of all the law enforcement entities across the system. As you mentioned, the National Prosecuting Authority has not been the subject of institutional review. The Zondo Commission looked at this issue for a long time. I'm aware that there was a lot of investigations that went into it. A number of, it was a time that I was not in South Africa at the time, but I'm aware that a number of prosecutors and other staff members of the NPA made statements, deposed to affidavits in the context of the Zondo Commission. But sadly, the Zondo Commission did not make any recommendations about systemic weaknesses within the criminal justice system, so that these could actually be acted upon to strengthen the system as a whole. And this is actually, the Zondo Commission did incredibly good work and looked through, laid bare, the extent of corruption in this country and the impact that this has had on the ordinary people of South Africa, where there's no water, sanitary. We all know this. Basic infrastructure, schools, hospitals have all been impacted by corruption. And in the context of the Zondo Commission, they certainly looked at corruption and did incredibly good work. But at the end of the commission, they handed over to a criminal justice system that was seriously weakened during those years to do the work and hold people accountable. And into a system that was at that point and still is trying to recover from that to get to a point where we can properly deal with these matters. And so I think in that sense, I see this as an opportunity for the lawmakers to come together and carefully look at what are the weaknesses in the system and how do we actually, it's an unprecedented opportunity to look at what are the weaknesses, what are the recommendations that come out of this, and how do we at the end of the day strengthen the system to serve the people of this country and to deal with not just corruption, but the crime crisis that this country is facing, including organized crime and other forms of criminality, sexual and gender-based violence. So I see this as a really good opportunity for institutional reforms across the criminal justice system.
And is it dependent on whether or not the allegations, the wide-ranging allegations made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi on the 6th of July is or are verified or confirmed?
I certainly hope not, that it wouldn't be dependent on that. I'm hoping that the commission and the lawmakers would take what comes out of this and then consider systemic inefficiencies and make recommendations in terms of how the system can be strengthened one is to deal with crime, but also to address the serious vulnerabilities to potential corruption and compromise of whether it's police officers, prosecutors, members of the judiciary, etc. It's important that those kinds of recommendations come out of this.
Apologies for jumping around a bit in terms of the structure of your affidavit, but because we on the issue of institutional reform of the NPA, and we might as well just look at the paragraph 4.1.11 of the committee's terms of reference, which refers to the alleged existence of an organized crime syndicate controlled by drug cartels as well as business people, and its infiltration of key criminal justice role players involving politicians, law enforcement, SAPS, and the NPA is mentioned. And just fast forward, you had made, even ahead of the 6th of July Mkhwanazi media statement. Can you go to paragraphs 74 and 75, where you had made, there's a reference to a media interview on the 5th of June 2025 and the 6th of June 2025. Honorable Chair, those media statements or copies of it are now available in an exhibit. What's it, Talia, Delana? 11 or 12? 11. Exhibit 11. Thank you. It's not attached to the statement. Advocate Batoy, you want to just address those and contextualize them?
Yes, thank you, Council. So, Honorable Chair, I was at that point in time, I was during a media interview on the 5th of June, I made comments relating to infiltration of the NPA. And the next day, I then also had another media interview where I sought to clarify what I meant by that. But let me just explain to the House and Honorable Chair, honorable members, I speak to the House, I speak to the people of South Africa as well. And I want to explain that the reason that I made these comments at the time was that I had received confidential intelligence that there was a very concerted attempt to compromise members of the prosecuting authority. Also, concerted attempts to undermine and attack the national director, and by individuals that are seeking to undermine the rule of law in this country. I'm not able to say who gave me this intelligence, but it was not passage talk. It was a formal meeting that I had with a particular agency, a member from a particular agency, and who gave me this information because the person thought it was important that as the head of the NPA, I should be aware of this attempts to undermine the work of the NPA. These were very serious. I was informed that the matter will be reported to the president, but I immediately informed the Minister of Justice about this, and had a meeting with her when I briefed her on what I had been told. I also, at some time later after that, when the president was available, met with him and briefed him about my concerns about this. And my understanding is that there was not a, and this is my understanding, I'm not sure how these agencies work, but that there wasn't a particular tasking to look into the NPA. But I asked the president, I said to him, it's important that we understand what is going on and that there should be a tasking by our intelligence services to properly look into this matter. And that was the situation. Of course, when I made these comments, there were prosecutors in the NPA who also became concerned about this. And I hasten to add that, Chair, the majority of the prosecutors in the NPA are hardworking, committed prosecutors, and our performance will attest to this, that serve the rule of law and the people of this country and nobody else. But of course, the hardworking prosecutors were concerned about these comments that I'd made, and wondering about who do you trust in your work environment. And I said to them, we work in a work environment where we don't know who to trust. That is the reality. Even sometimes within the prosecuting authority, definitely within the SAPs and other partners, we work under conditions where you do not know who to trust. But you have to have safeguards, and we have to do the work to the best of our ability to serve the people of this country. I then I went to meet prosecutors across the country and started off in the bigger provinces of Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, and now I've traveled to Free State, Northern Cape, far-flung regions to meet with prosecutors, to assure them that the NPA, that as prosecutors, their commitment is to the Constitution and the rule of law. And that if there was any attempts to undermine any prosecutors, that it's not worth it, because your reputation is not worth being compromised at any point, that we serve nobody but the people of this country and the rule of law. And so I've been trying to make efforts to assure prosecutors that the work we do is important, our integrity is important, our personal reputations are important, and that we should never compromise that for anyone across the spectrum. So I hope that that clarifies what happened in that context.
Just two further aspects on that. At paragraph 73, you reference receiving information also from the National Commissioner and from the National Commissioner and Lieutenant General Khumalo about potentially corrupt.
That's correct. So, Honorable Chair, I received information from the National Commissioner and General Khumalo about a particular member of the prosecuting authority who was involved in organized criminality. I am not going to mention the name of that prosecutor in this House. The matter is under investigation. I immediately, upon receiving that information, I made a formal referral of the matter to the IDAC to investigate the matter. And that's the one direct evidence, bit of evidence or information, I should say, because I did ask the National Commissioner and General Khumalo. I met with them and I said to them, please, we need more evidence so that we can look into this matter, because it's unacceptable and untenable that any member of the prosecuting authority is involved with organized criminality. That there should be a fair process, and I've said this to prosecutors. There must be a fair process, and if you're found to be compromised, you will be kicked out of the NPA. We serve the people and we fight crime. We cannot be criminals ourselves.
But what's the status of this particular prosecutor, given these serious allegations coming from high-ranking
I don't. The prosecutor is under suspension.
Okay. So it's currently not been temporarily removed from the system. Now, just the second aspect I wanted to while we're at it is you otherwise reference at paragraphs 71 and 72 some statistics with us relating to complaints or allegations of corruption, presumably less serious, but nevertheless complaints of misconduct at paragraph 71 and 72. Do you want to just briefly refer to that?
So in terms of
just a moment, Honorable Skosana.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a seeking clarity question, because the Advocate Batoy is saying he can't reveal the name here. But if it's the same person who was mentioned in the media, why not revealing it here? Because in the media, if as members here of the committee and the South African, some people knows exactly what we are talking about. Who's that person we are talking about? Why are we hiding it here? Thank you, Chair.
Advocate.
Chair, I will not want to hide anything from this committee. I regard it as a very important committee. But I do want to be responsible at the same time. I'm not sure who the person is that the honourable member is referring to. But even if the name is given to me now, I'm not going to make a comment about whether it is or isn't. It's not fair on the process. It's not fair on the person concerned. And this it might turn out not to be true. We may not be able to verify this information. And then it destroys people's reputations and lives. And I think it will be hugely irresponsible for me at this stage, with just the bit of information that I have referred, to mention names in this House. So I'd please ask the House to be understanding and not to insist that because I will not reveal the name, Chair, with all due respect.
Chair, the advocate says that he won't reveal the name, and he's not sure whether I'm talking about the same person. Do you know the name?
Chair, if I may ask the name of which person, the person in the media or the person in respect of whom the information was received?
No, the person you mentioned that is sitting at home, the prosecutor, which you said is sitting at home as we speak here.
I do.
But we are talking, you said you don't know that person.
No. It is not what she said.
Yes.
You alluded to knowing a person who
the media is
who might be on suspension because the report is in the media.
Yes.
And what we may have to check with her is whether the report that you have seen in the media and the report that she gives here are one and the same report, or are two different reports.
Yes. Yes, no, I agree, Chair. And maybe if he said that, if he can say is it the same person, maybe he doesn't want to mention. But if it's mentioned in the media and it's the same person and he says it's a secret, for me that's a double standard. I mean, we deserve to know as well, formally so, not from the media. But if it's a different person, it's okay.
Yeah. She says for the purpose of professionalism. Honorable Malem.
No, thanks, Chair. I thought she was suggesting we must just go home if she's going to proceed like that. Because we deal with names here. What are we dealing with? What are we dealing with here? We want to know who captured the criminal justice system. And if we can't be told names and we accept that, let's go home. Especially names that are out there. There is a prosecutor, I'm just forgetting the name of, is it Johannesburg or something, Pretoria, who's suspended by the president. Joburg, Chauke. What's difficult saying something like that? What's difficult saying something like that? If we're referring to Chauke, or if there is more, we need to know. There is nothing unprofessional about that, because if we're going to proceed like that, we're becoming toothless. We cannot allow a situation where there is an allegation of a prosecutor who is being captured or infiltrated, and we are told we can't be given a name. If it was wrongly mentioned, there are recourse in South Africa where that name will be cleared. There are so many names of people being said here, people who are also in jail, people who are already on criminal trials. We get deep into those issues because we're seeking to unearth the truth. If it is true, indeed, there are people who are captured in the prosecuting authority. We want to know that. What if Chauke is wrongly accused? What if he's correctly accused? We need to come to a determination that, look, there is nothing in the NPA that suggests there is any infiltration by the drug cartel or anything of that sort. Or there is. And if we say there is, these are the issues. And these are the individuals responsible for those kind of activities in the NPA. So I don't think Honorable Skosana is being irresponsible in that regard. Thanks.
Advocate.
Thank you, Chair. I really want to emphasize, honorable members, that I do not seek to be disrespectful to this committee. I haven't even said, the members have mentioned names. I haven't even said whether it is or isn't that name that has been mentioned. And I will not, I don't want to make it difficult for this House to be able to do its work. But given that I was given, I think what at the level of intelligence, because I haven't even said it's evidence. I went back to the National Commissioner as well as General Khumalo and I said, can you please give me evidence of this? Because I need more evidence. And so I really urge that it will be hugely irresponsible of me to mention a name in this House on the basis of intelligence that I've received that may or may not be true. So I really urge honorable members to understand that I do want to help this House, but I do not want to put people's names at risk for various reasons. You never know how people are put at risk. I mean, and we don't know whether it was a direct consequence of what happened in this House, but you know that our chief investigator of the IDAC was attacked a day or two after his name was mentioned in this House. But one might say, look, he is the chief investigator. It's not difficult, that you shouldn't really draw that conclusion. I will understand that as well. But it does put people at risk. And I do not want to be irresponsible and do that when all I've received is intelligence about the possibility that about the fact that somebody is involved with organized criminal networks. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Ngola.
Thank you very much, Chair. We have evidence before us that there are rogue sections within the NPA, which suggests that we must dig deeper to look into the allegation. And part of what has been a modus operandi of this ad hoc chair was that names must be given to the committee so that it is actually assisted in formulating a finding and recommendations. From the evidence of General Mkhwanazi, whom part of it is what he termed as an intelligence information. So we have been able, for example, Chair, General Mkhwanazi stood in front of this ad hoc committee and said, him and General Khumalo went to the Minister of Police to brief him that General Sbiya is a rogue element within SAPS in terms of intelligence information. So I'm trying to display, Chair, that this is not the first time we're dealing with a situation of this matter. And I'm trying to make the NTPP comfortable to mention the name of the person that she's referring to. It is not certainly a finding or a guilty decision if you mention the name. Part of what we've been placed on here, Chair, is that there is an evidence General Mkhwanazi even brought to the committee and later withdrew some parts of that evidence and it was acceptable. So I want the NTPP to feel comfortable to provide the necessary finer detail of the evidence he's giving before the committee. Thank you very much.
Advocate Honorable Mathis. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Just to add on, number one, within our terms of reference, as a committee, I know this is an open it's an open hearing at the moment, but we do have an option of a closed session. I'm not saying that we need to go there. We are wasting our time if we are not getting names. We're also going to leave, and when we go through our deliberations, we are going to say our National Director of Public Prosecutor gave testimony, but we have no proof. Because this thing of having classified intelligence reports is something that is so old that we've heard. I mean, if we go back, even in the history of Parliament, so many decisions have been made on intelligence or classified intelligence reports that we've never seen, we don't know. So we need to make a decision on if this thing is like that's high profile, do we take it into a closed session? But I don't think it is that serious, Advocate. On a very serious note, there are many people that have come, they've been cleared and they've cleared their names. But we are definitely wasting our time if we are going to be protecting individuals who, number one, have already, if you've said they've been suspended. That means there has been action that has been taken. And I don't think our citizenry is um, that stupid or not to be able to put it in context that this is still under investigation and they currently being suspended. We're also undermining the intelligence both of this committee and South Africans at large. Thank you.
Honorable James.
Thank you, Chair. Advocate, you've just mentioned that you don't trust crime intelligence. Am I right? Earlier on, you've said that you don't trust crime intelligence, and now we are expected as South Africans and as this committee to trust crime intelligence. The purpose of this ad hoc committee is basically for show and tell. We want those names, and I don't think we're going to be okay today with leaving here because everyone else's names, and I don't want to repeat what my colleague has just said. We've mentioned names of all other people that's implicated in this, and the words that were used was allegedly involved. I'm not sure why we can't do the same here today.
Advocate Batoy.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I want to make a correction. I didn't say I don't trust crime intelligence. I said there were people across the system that we couldn't trust. We don't know who to trust. Actually, not specific people that we don't trust. The way I said it is, I said you don't know who to trust. So just to clarify that. Chair, I hear what the committee members are saying. It has always been the position that when we are investigating, we do not give names of anyone that is the subject of an investigation. From the NPA, we only mention the name of a person in any media report or publicly after the person has appeared in court. That is the only time we do not even mention that people are the subjects of investigation. Names are never mentioned by the NPA generally. That is our policy, and that is to protect people. I don't want to protect criminals, of course, but we live in a constitutional democracy, and we must protect the rights of people, even if you are the subject of an investigation. And I hear what the honourable members are saying about the fact that other names have been mentioned by other people that have appeared before the committee. I don't know whether that's right or wrong, but I know the committee wants to do its work and wants to get to the bottom of this. Maybe the idea of a closed session is not such a bad one, because it is at the level of intelligence, and I think it will be hugely irresponsible of me to mention the name of a person. It's easier said than done. We can sit here and say, there have been allegations and people have been cleared, but these things destroy people's lives. And as prosecutors, we have a lot of power to make these decisions that affect people's lives in a very real way. And I've always implored upon prosecutors to please take your responsibility seriously. The impact of our decisions impact people's lives. So we must make the right decisions and make sure we have the evidence when we make a decision to prosecute. But that is taking it to another level. At this level where we are here, when we make a decision to prosecute, we have a lot of evidence already. Here I'm in a situation where all I have is the flimsiest bit of intelligence with a name that may or may not be true. And I still urge and I ask the committee to respect that. I cannot say it in an open platform where the many people of South Africa are listening. And I want the people of South Africa to understand that I don't mean to be disrespectful to you at all, and this committee. I really want to be responsible and not destroy even a single life. It's one too many. So I unfortunately cannot say it in this open platform, Chair.
I want you to help us here, because you give us a report here that the official is on suspension. Is that correct?
That's correct, Chair.
And then this suspension, who effected the suspension?
Chair, if I give details about this, it could reveal the identity of a person, and it becomes if you say enough about something that actually reveals the identity, it's the same as saying a name. So I really want to urge that I can say things in a closed session, as I said. I'm happy to consider that.
I hear what you are saying, advocate. You know, if you start investigations because you want to discover certain things, you can say now, because we are still at a stage where we are investigating, we may not want to jeopardize the process. But if you investigate and reach a stage where you make a decision to say, Lakhanyan, we now come to a point where we suspend you, you are acting in public office, isn't it?
Chair, for the sake of clarity, I didn't say the person was suspended for this issue.
But the person is on suspension. Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying, that if you act in public office, any decision that is taken by, it's an administrative act, isn't it? And for sure, you should be able to explain that decision, unless you were to say to us, like, you know, when we administered oath here, the law says you are expected to answer any question fully and satisfactorily, and failure to do so, you may be committing an offense. And if there was a law that prevents you to do that, maybe it will be advisable to you to say, I'm mindful of the oath that I've taken, but there is this law that prevents me. Because when you act in public office, the other arm of that action is accountability. You should be able to account on the decisions that you have taken, especially that, I mean, the suspension of a person or removal of a person from office is in public interest. I mean, the public wants to know why this person is no longer in office. How has it happened? Is this decision arbitrary or is it justified? If you understand what I'm saying, it's not like you are still investigating. A decision has already been taken to suspend the person. So what is it that makes it difficult to you, advocate, to say the person who is suspended is Soviet Lakhanyan?
Chair, I said that the person is not suspended for these allegations. And if I mentioned anything more about it, it may become clear who the person is. And for that reason, I do not want to say anything more about it. Chair, I would think that the Constitution actually requires me to act fairly when we take decisions. And this, in my view, is being fair to someone who may or may not be implicated in organized criminality. But of course, the matter is under investigation. Those allegations have been referred and they are being investigated.
Can I check honorable members who want to speak on this matter? Honorable Skosana, Honorable Nola, Honorable Nomvalu, Honorable Malema.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, SC. Perhaps.
Honorable Sols will be the last.
Oh. I'm sorry, to have, because there was a nice questioning to advocate. I never thought this matter is so complicated. But in my view, names have been mentioned. The president has suspended someone, which perhaps maybe there's another ones who are suspended, some prosecutors, fine. But I don't think it's right, advocate. Because where do we draw the line? When things are genuine or are not genuine, where do we draw the line? Because this committee sits here to probe these issues, the allegations which were made by General Mukwanazi. Hence, we are here. We are not casting aspersion to anyone, but we want the truth. But if it's an animal farm, names were mentioned here. No one ever complains about names being mentioned here. It's for the first time for me, from hearing from you as a national director of public prosecution. When you talk about people's life being destroyed, I can tell you, don't go there, because he invokes pains to many South Africans who have lost their lives, others their livelihood because of the NPA. Some are still being prosecuted, for many years. Their cases are still in court. But we are going to come to those questions to you at a later stage. But for now, it was only about the name, because the media has made those names. But we don't want to rely on the media because we are here. We don't want to have the merits of the case.
I don't want
Thank you, Chair.
to debate the question. I want to hear you. What are you saying on this matter?
I'm sticking to my earlier question. Thank you, Chair.
That the name must be revealed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. It does look like the NDPP is putting a barometer or a barrier in that they can only disclose the name of the person once that person appears before court, which I presume that she means the first appearance. Chair, given the fact that we have agreed to seek for an extension as the ad hoc committee, I think for progress' sake, let's say we will require the NDPP or anyone who will be at the helm of NPA before we consolidate the report to submit a written report in specifically on that particular aspect, so that we proceed for now. But the committee must not be disadvantaged in collating necessary evidence, so that that particular evidence informs what the committee finds in its findings and recommendations. So I propose, Chair, that before the committee does its winding up report, that evidence must have been sent through a written report to the committee. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Chair. No, Chair, we just want to make a clear statement that if the NDPP continues to refuse to reveal a name, it means she is not cooperating to an investigation. Because here we're not doing oversight. This is not a justice committee being chaired by Honorable Ngola, where you give annual reports. We're doing an investigation, and names have been tabled before this committee. Names of people who have not even been charged. Just names of people who do not appear before any disciplinary committee. So it means you don't have confidence in this committee. Two, you are undermining our intelligence. What adverse impact is it going to have if you tell us that a person is so and so? There will be no adverse impact other than an impact that is imaginary. We are just imagining that there will be an adverse impact if you mention names. How? So we are going to understand you to be refusing to cooperate with this committee if you refuse to give us names. Yeah, we are investigating, so you can't tell us how we should investigate. We can't be told by you. We have terms of reference. We know what we are doing here. So don't undermine our intelligence. Chair, I'm in support of what Honorable Skosana is saying, that the name must be revealed to help our investigation, to pursue our investigation, because that name might be relevant for us to take a certain posture with regards to this investigation. So you are refusing to give more insight about issues which are affecting our justice system if you refuse to give us a name. And we are not just asking from an ordinary person. You are the NDPP with a statutory responsibility to oversee the running of the NPA. And you come here and refuse to give us names as if it's a choice. It's not a choice. We're investigating you. We're investigating the allegations, I mean. And if we say give us names, unless you are telling us that you are refusing, then we're going to note it as such. We're going to write it down that you are not cooperating with this investigation. Thank you.
Honorable Malemo.
Chair, NDPP must know that she's got a duty to protect this country more than individuals. You can't say, I want to protect individual because of their rights and all of that. A rotten NPA, it's very dangerous to our constitutional democracy she speaks about. A rotten NPA is dangerous to the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. So you cannot protect an individual over the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. Just her failure to respond to this question, she must take her bag and go. She's not going to be useful to us. We are asking names. That's why we are here. We are told there are people who kept people is names. Who are those people? We want names of drug cartels. We want names of corrupt police. We want names of corrupt judges. We want names of corrupt prosecutors. That is the whole idea of us being here. So you call a witness, when she left home, she left saying she's going to do what here? This is the public information. But to come and say, I won't give you names, even on matters that are public, that is having taken a conscious decision that I'm not going to cooperate with them and I'm going to show them that they can't do anything. She's completely undermining us. To put it mildly, she's undermining us, and she left her home having taken a decision to come and undermine us here. What is so secret about telling us about a public prosecutor of a public prosecution? Everything is public there, except when you are dealing with the case. It says I will give you a name when a person appears in court. The person that we're speaking about, for instance, Chauke, he's not going to go to court. It's an inquiry that is on. The president is investigating a particular conduct, wrongly or rightfully, I don't know. So it means we'll never hear that name Chauke in this committee because he will never have a first day appearance in a criminal court. What happens? There is an internal, inquiry that the president has constituted. The head of NPA must know about that, must be comfortable to speak about it. And the refusal to speak about such an incident is to say, I'm not going to cooperate with you. Actually, the allegations goes further, which we're going to probe later when it is our turn to ask questions. They say after they arrested advocate Chauke, they are able to register cases easily. That's what SAP says. And cases are moving smoothly in Gauteng. Is that true? We want to get into those issues, but if the head of NPA is going to shy away from that, then which issue are we going to deal with? Which we need prosecutors who are cooperating with drug cartels.
Thank you, Honorable Malema. Honorable Salt.
Chair, indeed, advocate is required to give us names. It is true. However, it is not true that names has been given in this committee. We still don't know the names of 3 out of the big 5. Why? Because the witness stated that it is under investigation and the names will be revealed and it can be revealed in camera, can be revealed in a closed session. So we must be honest about this, that it is true that advocate must give us the names. But the question is not must you give us the names or not. You must give us the names or name. But the question is how? Which platform? If what is the requirement for you to give it in closed session? If we go by what has happened in the past in this committee, the statement was, I cannot reveal in public the names of the other three of the big five, even though the committee wants to know, and that's what we are investigating. It's because it's still under investigation. You testified, advocate, that the person you are referring to is suspended, but the suspension is not connected to the allegations that you are referring to. In other words, whatever you are referring to is still under investigation. And it is for that reason that you don't want to publicly reveal the name, if I understand you correctly. This then satisfies the same requirements that was put forward before. Where I will disagree with you, advocate, is if we say to you, you must reveal the name, but you must reveal it to us in closed session because it is still under investigation, and you refuse at that point, then I will disagree with you. Because that would be you intentionally hampering us from doing our work. But if you are willing to reveal the name in closed session, that would be in line with our terms of reference. So, Chair, I support the position that the advocate must reveal the name. But if the advocate opts to do so in closed session, that is in line with our terms of reference, and she should be allowed to do that. Thank you, Chair.
Advocate Breitenbach.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I understand the need for the members to hear the names, and we all need to hear them. Advocate Batoy has made it quite clear that the person she is referring to has not necessarily been suspended for the facts that we are now talking about. And she doesn't have control over the investigation, and the other agencies that are involved in, obviously involved in such an investigation. And so for her to sit here and publicly name people could not only undermine the investigation, but it could also undermine other agencies who are busy with important work. And so I would agree that she must be fully open and honest with this committee, but not in an open forum. And for the sake of progress, I think we should move on with everything else and then deal with this issue at the end and in a closed forum. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Sangwan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. No, I think I've generally been covered by all the members who spoke, and I align myself with the recommendation on the closed session. Chair, because we were discussing this matter and we don't need an answer now, I can wait until we're questioning. But I'm hoping that Advocate Batoy is also going to give us the reasons why she recommended to the President that Advocate Chauke be suspended. I would appreciate that we get that. Thank you, Chair.
Bangazit.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. One, I actually wanted also to align myself with the shall I call the demand by this committee for the name to be actually mentioned. However, I do want to support Honorable Ngola in the proposal that he made, namely that perhaps at the end of the this process, the NPA